Mumbai Shadows, the Silvah Foxx mission. The sun beat down on the bustling streets of Mumbai, the chaotic symphony of the city in full force. It was a typical day in the metropolis, one that was hot, humid, and filled with the sights, sounds, and smells of the city. From the moment the sun rose, the city was on the move, with people rushing to and fro, vendors shouting their wares, and motorbikes weaving precariously between cars. It was a city that never slept, a city that was always in motion. The streets of Mumbai were alive with activity, with vendors selling everything from fragrant spices to gleaming trinkets. The air was thick with the smell of spices, the aroma of street food, and the exhaust fumes from the constant flow of vehicles. Hawkers pushed carts laden with mangoes and sugarcane juice through throngs of people, their voices rising above the din of the city. It was a chaotic and bustling scene, but one that was familiar and comforting to the residents of Mumbai. Amidst the chaos, there was a sense of energy and vitality in the city. It was a place where cultures collided, where traditions and modernity coexisted, and where the old and the new blended seamlessly. The bustling streets of Mumbai were a reflection of the city itself, vibrant, diverse, and full of life. It was a city that never failed to captivate and inspire, drawing people in with its energy and charm. Mumbai's vibrant energy pulsed with a striking contrast. Ancient traditions and ultra-modern advancements intertwined at every turn, creating a captivating, multifaceted urban tapestry. The vibrant streets were a melting pot of different cultures, languages, and traditions, making it a true reflection of the city's diversity. This was the very charm that drew people in from all over the world, eager to experience the energy and vibrancy that Mumbai had to offer. As one wandered through the crowded streets, the towering facade of a colonial-era building stood tall, a reminder of Mumbai's past. Its once pristine walls, now weathered by the relentless monsoon rains and scorching sun, a testament to the city's resilience. It was a site that perfectly encapsulated the coexistence of modernity and tradition in Mumbai, where the old and the new blended seamlessly. Amidst the chaos and commotion, Mumbai had an undeniable charm that never failed to captivate and inspire. It was a city that embraced change and progress, yet held onto its roots and heritage. This unique blend of old and new was what made Mumbai a city like no other, and its bustling streets were a testament to this. Each step taken on these vibrant streets was a journey through time, a reflection of Mumbai's past, present, and future. Devendra Kapoor, a charismatic politician on the steps of this grand structure, had a vision for Mumbai that reflected the unique blend of old and new that made this city so enchanting. His speeches had drawn record-breaking crowds, and he stood now, dressed in a crisp white kurta with a saffron shawl draped elegantly over one shoulder, radiating confidence as he waved to the sea of people gathered before him. The flags emblazoned with his party's insignia fluttered in the humid breeze, a symbol of the future he envisioned for Mumbai. The bustling streets of Mumbai were always a testament to its roots and heritage. But with Kapoor's leadership, the city was on the cusp of something even more extraordinary. Each step taken on these vibrant streets was a journey through time, a reflection of Mumbai's past, present, and future. As the crowd roared in response to Kapoor's words, their cheers echoing through the narrow streets, it was clear that the people of Mumbai were ready for this new era, one that would embrace the city's history while propelling it towards a bright and prosperous future. The plaza was now filled to capacity, but the streets continued to funnel more spectators towards the grand structure. It was a testament to the city's energy and spirit, a constant flow of people seeking to be a part of Mumbai's vibrant and ever-evolving landscape. As Kapoor continued to speak, his words resonated with the crowd, a reminder of the journey they had all taken to get to this point. Mumbai may have been a city like no other, but with Kapoor's leadership, it was set to become even more extraordinary. The makeshift stage, draped in bright orange and green banners, stood as a beacon of hope, or so Kapoor believed. Security personnel roamed the perimeter, their sharp eyes scanning the swelling crowd. On the rooftops, sharpshooters kept vigil, their rifles glinting faintly in the sunlight. Drones buzzed above, capturing aerial footage for the evening news. The sun began its descent, casting a golden glow over the city. But the energy of the crowd showed no signs of waning. Devendra Kapoor, with his charismatic presence, continued to captivate the hearts and minds of the people of Mumbai. His vision for the city's future resonated deeply, and the crowd hung onto his every word. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the makeshift stage lit up, the bright lights illuminating Kapoor's determined face. The sea of people before him reflected the vibrant colors of the banners, their faces filled with hope and anticipation. Mumbai, a city of dreams and aspirations, was on the brink of transformation, and Kapoor was the catalyst. His words, a powerful blend of tradition and innovation, painted a picture of a brighter future. The people of Mumbai, known for their resilience and adaptability, embraced his vision with open arms. They understood that their city was unique, a melting pot of cultures and eras, and they were ready to write the next chapter in Mumbai's storied history. The evening wore on, and the crowd's enthusiasm only grew. Their cheers and applause echoed through the streets, a testament to the power of Kapoor's oratory and the promise of a new era. As the final rays of sunlight faded, the city glowed with an electric energy. It was clear that Mumbai, with its bustling streets and vibrant spirit, was poised to embrace a future that honored its rich past, while forging a path towards progress and prosperity. Amid the celebratory atmosphere, the camera's focus shifted, revealing a subtle undercurrent of unease. The darkened windows of nearby buildings stared ominously at the crowd. A clock tower loomed in the distance, its hands ticking toward noon. On its scaffolding, barely discernible, a faint glint of metal flickered, the first hint of death waiting patiently. The politician's speech, Kapoor stepped up to the podium, his voice booming over the crowd. The sun's golden hour illuminated the scene as Devendra Kapoor, the charismatic politician, took to the stage. The crowd, a sea of faces, hung on his every word, their eyes shining with hope and anticipation. "My fellow Mumbaikars," Kapoor began, his voice deep and resonant, carrying across the plaza. "Today we stand at the precipice of a new era for our beloved city. An era that embraces our rich history while propelling us towards a future of progress and prosperity." Cheers erupted from the crowd, their voices echoing off the colonial-era buildings surrounding the plaza. Mumbai is a city like no other. It is a melting pot of cultures, a tapestry of ancient traditions and modern advancements. Our streets buzz with energy, our markets burst with color, and our people embody the very spirit of resilience and adaptability. Kapoor paused, his eyes scanning the crowd, taking in the diverse faces of the people who called Mumbai home. "I see the strength of our city in each and every one of you, in the vendors who bring life to our streets, in the artists who capture our essence, and in the entrepreneurs who drive us forward. Together, we will shape a future that honors our past while embracing innovation and change." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, a collective affirmation of Kapoor's vision. "With each step we take, we leave our mark on this city. Our legacy will be one of unity, of progress, and of a Mumbai that stands as a beacon of hope and opportunity for all." As Kapoor's speech reached its climax, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft twilight glow over the plaza. The crowd, still enraptured by his words, fell silent, awaiting his final message. "The future of Mumbai is in your hands," he declared. his voice filled with passion. "Let us forge ahead with determination, embracing our diversity and our shared love for this magnificent city. Together, we will write the next chapter in Mumbai's storied history, creating a brighter future for generations to come." The crowd erupted in applause, their cheers filling the night air. It was clear that Kapoor's vision had captured the hearts and minds of the people, and Mumbai, the city of dreams and aspirations, was poised to embrace a future that honored its past while reaching for the stars. Kapoor's booming voice echoed through the crowd, stirring emotions in the hearts of those who had gathered. His words were filled with passion and conviction, igniting a sense of purpose within each individual. As he spoke, the looming clock tower in the distance seemed to symbolize the urgency of the situation at hand. The glint of metal on the scaffolding caught the attention of a few curious onlookers. It was a stark reminder that amidst this hopeful atmosphere, there was still a looming threat of danger. The first hint of death lingered in the air, a chilling contrast to Kapoor's grandiose promises of a better future. It was a reminder that change often comes at a cost. Despite the ominous presence of the clock tower and the glint of metal, Kapoor's words continued to resonate with the crowd. His vision of a united nation, free from corruption and filled with prosperity, was a dream that they all shared. As he continued his speech, the people couldn't help but feel a sense of hope and determination. They believed in Kapoor's words, and together they were ready to make his vision a reality. The crowd erupted into applause, their enthusiasm rippling like a wave through the plaza. Kapoor paused, a practiced smile spreading across his face as he leaned closer to the microphone. His voice softened, taking on a tone of intimacy. "But we must remain vigilant," Kapoor continued. "Enemies of peace lurk in the shadows, seeking to divide us. We will not allow them to succeed." The crowd roared as Kapoor's practiced smile spread across his face, his voice softening to a tone of intimacy. But as he spoke of remaining vigilant against enemies of peace, the tiger watched from a distance through the lens of a high-powered rifle. Hidden atop the clock tower, he adjusted his scope with meticulous precision. He knew all too well the dangers that lurked in the shadows, seeking to divide and destroy the peace that he and his fellow rebels had fought so hard to attain. The tiger had seen the devastation caused by these enemies firsthand, and he was determined to not let them succeed. As Kapoor's speech continued, the tiger's grip on the rifle tightened, his finger hovering over the trigger. But as much as he wanted to take action, the tiger knew that this was not the time. He had to bide his time, wait for the right moment to strike. Until then, he would remain hidden, watching and waiting, ready to defend the peace that had been so hard won. With a sense of determination, the tiger continued to watch and listen, his eyes never leaving Kapoor's figure on the stage below. The faint ticking of his wristwatch synced perfectly with his steady breathing. Through the crosshairs, he studied his target. The sniper's strike, the kill, the tiger's world narrowed to a single point of focus: Devendra Kapoor. The politician's white kurta gleamed in the sunlight, a stark contrast against the vibrant colors of the crowd. Beads of sweat trickled down Kapoor's temple, the only sign of the oppressive heat. Through the rifle scope, the tiger saw everything. The curve of Kapoor's lips as he smiled at his supporters, the faint glisten of moisture on his forehead, the rhythmic rise and fall of his chest as he spoke. His finger hovered over the trigger, calm and deliberate. The faint ticking of his watch marked the seconds before action. Tick, 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 a single breath. The sound of the shot tore through the air like a thunderclap. In the fraction of a second between sound and impact, time seemed to freeze. The bullet tore through Kapoor's chest with surgical precision, its kinetic force staggering the politician backward. His saffron shawl fluttered in the air as his microphone clattered to the ground, the speakers emitting a ghostly feedback. A red bloom spread across Kapoor's chest, staining his pristine Kurt A. His knees buckled, and he collapsed onto the stag E. The crowd erupted into chaos. Screams replaced cheers. People shoved and stumbled as they scrambled to escape the plaza. Vendors overturned carts in their haste, sending mangoes and oranges rolling across the cobblestones. Children cried, their terrified wails lost in the cacophony of panic. The once lively and jubilant atmosphere had transformed into one of terror and confusion. Amidst the chaos, a figure lay motionless on the stage. The politician, Kapoor, was now face down, his saffron shawl fluttering in the air. The crowd stood in shock, unsure of what had just happened. The only sound to be heard was the eerie feedback from the fallen microphone. The red bloom on Kapoor's chest continued to spread, staining his pristine kurta. It was clear that this was no accident, but a calculated and precise attack. The assailant had not only targeted Kapoor, but also the very heart of the political system. The once peaceful rally was now a scene of violence and tragedy. The shocking turn of events left the crowd stunned and fearful. As they scattered in all directions, the true impact of this act of violence began to sink in. The chaos and destruction that followed were a stark reminder of the fragility of society and the consequences of political turmoil. The tiger stood atop the clock tower, his trained eyes scanning the chaos below. As the crowd fled in all directions, he maintained his composure, his mind calculating the next steps of his plan. He was a mastermind, a puppeteer pulling the strings of society with precision and control. His actions were not born out of emotion, but rather a calculated manipulation of the fragile fabric of society. As he dismantled his sniper rifle, the tiger's thoughts drifted to the events that had led to this moment. The political turmoil and unrest that had been brewing for months had finally come to a head, and he was the catalyst that had set it all in motion. The destruction and fear that now gripped the crowd below were a mere side effect of his grand design. With a steady hand, he closed his custom case, the final piece falling into place. Adjusting his wristwatch, the tiger knew that this was only the beginning. The shock and fear that had paralyzed the crowd would soon turn to anger and rebellion, and he would be there to guide them towards his ultimate goal. He was the master of chaos, and society was his puppet. The tiger, in all his glory, grinned from his perch atop the nearby rooftop. This was just the beginning of his grand plan. He relished in the chaos that he had caused, knowing that it was only a matter of time before the crowd turned against their oppressors. He could see the fear in their eyes, but he also saw the spark of rebellion that he had ignited within them. It was a beautiful sight to behold. As the authorities frantically tried to regain control, the tiger couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. He had been planning this moment for months, meticulously orchestrating every detail. And now, as he watched the chaos unfold, he knew that his ultimate goal was within reach. Society was his puppet, and he was the master pulling the strings. But the tiger knew that he had to be careful. He couldn't let his guard down, not when the stakes were this high. He was prepared for the anger and rebellion that would follow, but he also knew that the authorities would stop at nothing to stop him. With a sense of determination, he stood tall and vowed to see his plan through to the end, no matter what obstacles may come his way. As he crept closer to the government building, he couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. He knew he was about to embark on a dangerous and potentially deadly mission, but he was prepared for the anger and rebellion that would follow. Taking a deep breath, he reminded himself of his ultimate goal: to bring down the corrupt authorities and restore justice to the people. As he approached the entrance, he could feel the weight of his responsibility resting heavily on his shoulders. He knew that the authorities would stop at nothing to stop him, but he refused to back down. With a fierce determination burning within him, He stood tall and vowed to see his plan through to the end, no matter what obstacles may come his way. He was ready to sacrifice everything in the name of justice and freedom. With each step he took, his resolve grew stronger. The adrenaline pumping through his veins pushed him forward, propelling him towards his destiny. He knew this was just the beginning of a long and difficult journey, but he was prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The tiger was ready to fight for what he believed in, and nothing could stop him now. The tiger could feel his heart racing as he emerged from the maintenance tunnel. His veins still pulsed with the adrenaline of his recent escape. He knew that he couldn't stay in the shadows for long, and made a quick decision to discard his gloves and blend into the sea of pedestrians on the quiet side street. He needed to appear just like any other person in the city in order to complete his mission. In the midst of the chaos and noise of the city, the tiger found a moment of peace. He took a deep breath and reminded himself that this was only the beginning. He had a long and difficult journey ahead of him, but he was determined to push forward towards his destiny. Nothing could stop him now, not even the constant surveillance and danger that surrounded him. He was ready to fight for what he believed in, and he would do whatever it takes to see his mission through to the end. The aftermath. The tiger's legacy. The plaza was unrecognizable. The air was thick with the acrid smell of gunpowder and the metallic tang of blood. Security personnel formed a cordon around the stage, their voices hoarse as they shouted orders. Medics knelt beside Kapoor's lifeless body, their efforts futile. A reporter clutched a microphone, her voice trembling as she broadcast live to the nation. "Breaking news from Mumbai," she said, her words barely audible over the din. In a shocking and tragic turn of events, prominent politician Devendra Kapoor has been assassinated during a public address. Authorities have yet to identify the perpetrator, but speculation is rampant. Her voice faltered as the camera panned to the stage, where Kapoor's body lay surrounded by blood-stained banners. In the background, the sound of a microphone's feedback echoed hauntingly. Media broadcast montage. The scene transitioned to a series of rapid news clips. A news anchor, her face pale with shock. Authorities suspect this is the work of a professional assassin, given the precision of the shot and the absence of evidence at the scene. A panel of experts debating on live television. If this is truly the work of the tiger, we are dealing with an individual whose skills are unmatched in the world of covert operations. Another anchor, somber and grim. A name whispered in the shadows. A master assassin. A ghost, the tiger. Final visual beat, the tiger's escape. The camera cut to a crowded train station. The tiger, now wearing a sharply tailored suit, moved with purpose through the sea of commuters. His polished shoes clicked softly against the platform. He carried a sleek black case, indistinguishable from the countless other travelers rushing to catch their trains. A faint smirk played on his lips as he stepped onto a departing train. Through the window, the towering skyline of Mumbai receded into the distance. The rhythmic chug of the train blended with the faint ticking of his wristwatch, a haunting reminder of his precision and patience. The screen faded to black. The briefing in Washington. The warm rays of the sun gently kissed the city of Washington, D.C., as it slowly woke up to a new day. The National Mall, a symbol of freedom and democracy, was illuminated by the soft morning light, creating a serene and peaceful atmosphere. The majestic monuments stood tall, basking in the golden glow, as if welcoming the start of a new day. In the distance, the Capitol dome stood proud and regal, its white pillars shining against the clear blue sky. As the camera continued to pan over the city, it captured the beauty and grandeur of the nation's capital. The streets were slowly coming to life, with cars and people starting to fill the once quiet roads. The city was alive with energy, ready to take on whatever challenges the day may bring. It was a bustling hub of activity, with people from all walks of life coming together in this melting pot of cultures and ideas. And as the camera lingered on the iconic landmarks, it was a reminder of the rich history and significance of this city in shaping the nation. The scene was a perfect reflection of the city itself, a harmonious blend of tradition and progress, of old and new, all coming together to create a unique and vibrant atmosphere. It was a sight to behold, and one that captured the heart and soul of Washington, D.C. in all its glory. As the camera slowly panned away, it left behind a feeling of awe and admiration for this beautiful city, and the promise of a new day filled with endless possibilities. Silvah's gaze lingers on the iconic landmarks of D.C., each one a potential target. His mind calculates possible scenarios, strategizing for every outcome. He knows that every mission is a high-stakes game, one that demands his full attention and unwavering focus. Despite the gravity of his work, Silvah approaches each mission with a sense of purpose and determination that is unmatched. As the SUV pulls up to a stop, Silvah steps out with grace and precision. He blends into the crowd effortlessly, his well-honed training allowing him to navigate the city with ease. The streets may be bustling, but Silvah moves with purpose, his every step calculated and efficient. He knows that time is of the essence, and any delay could mean the difference between success and failure. But beneath the calm exterior, Silvah's mind is constantly racing, analyzing every detail and anticipating every move. He knows that danger lurks around every corner, but he is always ready for it. As the city wakes up to a new day, Silvah Foxx is already in the thick of it, ready to protect his country and the people he holds dear. The fortified agency headquarters stands tall in the center of the city, a modern masterpiece of glass and steel. As the SUV approaches, the sleek drones hover above, their red sensors scanning the area. The entrance is heavily guarded, with uniformed men and advanced security systems. Automated barriers and facial recognition technology ensure only authorized personnel are granted entry. The entire scene is a testament to the agency's commitment to protecting sensitive information and maintaining a secure perimeter. The futuristic design and advanced technology serve as a reminder of the constant vigilance required in the world of espionage. Silvah Foxx is the lead agent of an elite international spy agency. He is known for his sharp mind, tactical brilliance, and unwavering composure. As he enters the agency's headquarters, Silvah's physical appearance and demeanor reflect the agency's commitment to excellence and security. His presence alone is a reminder of the constant vigilance required in the world of espionage. Silvah's age, early 40s, has not diminished his physical prowess. Standing at 6 feet tall, he commands attention with his slim yet muscular build. His deep brown eyes, often unreadable, hold a mix of intensity and intrigue. His smooth, clean-shaven face and refined features make him effortlessly handsome, earning him the attention of both men and women alike. Despite his suave exterior, Silvah is a man of principles. He has a code that he lives by, and he will do whatever it takes to protect his team and stop any threats. However, his loyalty and respect for human life prevents him from causing any unnecessary harm or collateral damage. This unwavering sense of responsibility makes Silvah an exceptional leader, one that is respected and admired by all who work alongside him. Whispers ripple through the crowd. "That's Fox! He's back in town. Must be serious." Silvah strides through the building with purpose, exuding a commanding aura that parts the sea of personnel like a blade slicing through water. Fox's presence commands the attention of all, his reputation preceding him. The murmurs of his name echo throughout the building, drawing the attention of all who hear it. Some whisper in hushed tones. Others simply stop and stare in awe as he passes. All know the gravity of his return. Something important is happening. There is a sense of urgency in the air as Fox strides through the operations floor, his eyes taking in the screens and monitors that surround him. The red alerts and panicked crowds on the screens reflect the tension in the room. As he moves with purpose, the sea of personnel parts effortlessly, making way for him as he makes his way to the center of the chaos. His commanding aura seemed to cut through the tension like a knife, instilling a sense of calm in those around him. The screens and monitors that line the walls are a testament to the importance of the work done in this building. It is a place where critical information is analyzed and decisions are made that have far-reaching consequences. Fox's return to this environment only adds to the gravity of the situation at hand. As he takes in the data streaming across the screens, it is clear that whatever has brought him back must be of utmost importance. And with Fox at the helm, they can be confident that they are in capable hands. As Silvah approaches the elevator, a young subordinate hurries toward him, struggling to keep pace. "Director Sharp wants to see you immediately, sir," the agent says, a tinge of urgency in his voice. Silvah smirks faintly as he adjusts his cufflinks. "It always is." The young agent's words hung in the air as we stepped into the elevator. I offered a reassuring smile, sensing the urgency in his tone. "Relax, Agent. I'm sure Director Sharp just wants to brief me on the situation." As the elevator ascended, Silvah took a moment to gather his thoughts, steeling himself for the challenges that lay ahead. As stepping out onto the operations floor, the room buzzed with a whirlwind of activity. The air was alive with the hum of computers and the low murmurs of agents deeply immersed in their tasks. Their eyes gleamed with determination, fully aware of the immense responsibility resting on their shoulders. Among them stood Fox, observing the team with a surge of pride. Unsung heroes working tirelessly behind the scenes. As Fox moved through the bustling crowd, heads turned, and recognition flickered across their faces. Whispers followed in Fox's wake, a testament to the reputation that preceded the figure. "Fox is here. Something big must be happening." Maintaining focus and a steady expression, Fox strode purposefully toward the director's office. Weight of responsibility rested heavily on my shoulders, but I was ready to face whatever awaited me. He replies before stepping into the elevator, the doors sliding shut with a muted hiss. The briefing with Director Emily Sharp. The camera transitions smoothly to Director Emily Sharp's office, a strikingly minimalist space perched high above the bustling city skyline. Floor-to-ceiling windows flood the room with natural light, casting sharp lines across the polished concrete floors and steel furniture. The decor is sparse but intentional, an angular desk of dark wood, a single black leather chair, and a small shelf lined with carefully curated books on geopolitics and strategy. Hollow screens dominate the space, projecting a vivid three-dimensional map of Southeast Asia. Red markers blink ominously over key cities, pulsing like a heartbeat that signals impending danger. Surveillance images, satellite captures, and live video feeds rotate in mid-air, forming a dynamic digital mosaic of intelligence. Each feed carries its own story. Crowded streets, military convoys, clandestine meetings in shadowy alleys, all stitched together into a tapestry of urgency. The faint hum of the hollow projectors fills the air as Emily, with a commanding presence, stands by the screens. Her sharp eyes scan the data, her fingers occasionally swiping through layers of information with practiced precision. The tension in the room is palpable, as if the walls themselves are bracing for the weight of the decisions to come. Standing at the edge of the room, Director Emily Sharp radiates focus and control. She is dressed in a sharp navy blue power suit, her steel gray eyes locked on the glowing map before her. The lines on her face, subtle but undeniable, speak of decades of navigating crises far beyond what most could fathom. The door slides open and Silvah Foxx steps in. Emily doesn't turn immediately, her voice sharp and direct. "Fox, glad you could make it. Take a seat." Silvah crosses the room, his footsteps echoing softly against the polished floor. He sits across from Emily, his posture relaxed, but his gaze attentive. The tension in the room is palpable, underscored by the faint hum of the hollow screens. Emily presses a control pad, and a new series of images fills the room. Grainy footage of a politician collapsing during a public speech in Mumbai, crowds scattering in terror, and close-ups of a single gunshot wound. News headlines flash in rapid succession. Breaking news: Mumbai leader assassinated in broad daylight. The ghost assassin strikes again. Who is the tiger? Emily's tone is clipped and authoritative as she begins. 3 assassinations in 10 days. Political leaders, military strategists, diplomats. Different countries, same method. One shot, no trace. Mumbai, Bangkok, Jakarta, it's spreading. She zooms in on a blinking marker over Mumbai, the epicenter of the chaos. We've intercepted chatter that ties these killings to one operative. They're calling him the Tiger. No one knows his real identity, but his work is unmistakable, meticulous, ruthless, and precise. Silvah leans forward, studying the projected images. His expression is unreadable, but his voice carries a hint of intrigue. The Tiger's making moves. If he's this coordinated, he's not working alone. Emily nods, her gaze hardening. Exactly. We believe the Tiger is part of something much bigger, a network intent on destabilizing Southeast Asia. If they succeed, we're looking at economic collapse, mass unrest, and the kind of ripple effects that make wars inevitable. She steps closer, the tension in her voice rising. This isn't just another mission, Fox. This is the kind of threat that changes the game entirely. I need the Tiger neutralized. Yesterday, Emily hands Silvah a sleek dossier containing encrypted intel and photographs. The final image, a faint silhouette captured by a drone, lingers on the screen. Silvah flips the photograph around, muttering to himself. Shadows like to think they're untouchable. We'll see about that. As Silvah rises to leave, Emily delivers a final line, her voice low but firm. Be careful, Fox. We lose you. We lose the edge. Silvah Foxx prepares for the mission. The scene transitions to the agency armory, a private chamber where every surface flames under bright, sterile lights, reflecting a pristine, almost clinical atmosphere. Rows of advanced weaponry and gadgets line the walls, each meticulously organized by type and function, from sleek plasma rifles to compact multi-purpose drones. The faint hum of a high-tech ventilation system fills the air, ensuring the room remains dust-free. A reinforced glass case at the center showcases prototype devices, their polished exteriors hinting at cutting-edge innovation. The faint scent of metal and oil lingers, a reminder of the constant upkeep and precision engineering that defines the space. Silvah Foxx moves through the space with a practiced air, selecting his tools for the mission with surgical precision. Weapons selection. He picks up a custom 9-point silenced pistol, testing its weight in his hand before loading it with high-impact rounds. A tactical knife follows, its blade gleaming under the lights as he secures it in a hidden sheath. Finally, a modular sniper rifle, disassembled into sleek components, is packed into a discreet black case. Gadgets and gear. Silvah examines surveillance drones disguised as ordinary objects, a pair of sunglasses, a key fob, and slides them into his gear. A gold pen, seemingly innocuous, is revealed to be a tracker with a hidden transmitter. A young technician approaches, holding a modified watch. The device gleams with cutting-edge technology, its face displaying intricate holographic functions. State-of-the-art, Mr. Fox, the technician says nervously. Just don't break it like the last one. Silvah smirks, strapping the watch onto his wrist. If I break it, it means I'm still alive. Departure scene. The camera trails a Silvah as he strides confidently across the tarmac, his every step exuding purpose and precision, as if each movement is part of a meticulously choreographed routine. The rhythmic click of his polished shoes merges seamlessly with the distant hum of airport activity, a symphony of motion punctuated by the occasional metallic clatter of luggage carts and the muffled voices of ground crew shouting instructions. The soft whistle of the wind carries faint echoes of engines revving in the background, blending with the distant roar of a departing plane slicing through the sky. The air is thick with the mingling scents of jet fuel, freshly paved asphalt, and the faint tang of ozone, grounding the scene in an atmosphere of motion and anticipation. Ahead, a sleek black jet gleams under the fiery hues of the orange and crimson sunset, its glossy surface reflecting the vivid sky like a living canvas. The jet's sharp contours and streamlined design exude an aura of power and luxury, the kind that commands attention without a single word. Nearby, a crew member in a crisp uniform stands at attention, ready to assist, while the faint flicker of the jet's navigation lights adds a subtle rhythm to the vibrant tableau. Silvah's silhouette cuts a striking figure against the radiant horizon, the sharp lines of his tailored suit accentuating his commanding presence. The fabric clings perfectly to his frame, hinting at a meticulous attention to detail. His shoulders remain square, his posture unyielding, as though the weight of the world rests upon him, yet he carries it with ease. With a measured, deliberate gesture, he adjusts his tie, the silver glint of his cufflink catching the fading sunlight in. A final, brilliant flash. For a brief moment, the light dances across his face, illuminating the intensity in his eyes, a gaze that seemed to pierce through the gathering dusk, focused on some unseen goal just beyond the horizon. He ascends the stairs into the jet. The engines begin to rumble, a deep resonant growl that builds in intensity. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere is one of understated luxury. Soft leather seats, ambient lighting, and a faint aroma of cedarwood. Silvah settles into a seat by the window, his movements precise and controlled. A sleek tablet rests on the polished table before him, displaying a digital file marked "The Tiger" in bold, ominous lettering. His fingers swipe through the dossier, pausing occasionally as his sharp eyes scan the details. A faint smirk plays on his lips, a mixture of intrigue and determination. He leans back slightly, his gaze shifting to the window. The sprawling lights of Washington, D.C. twinkle in the distance, gradually receding as the jet ascends into the darkening sky. The horizon burns with the last embers of daylight. The scene outside, a stark contrast to the calculated thoughts running through Silvah's mind. His voice, calm and determined, breaks the silence. Arrival in Mumbai. Her agency Jet descended through a humid haze, revealing the Mumbai skyline. Below, the sprawling city stretched endlessly, a chaotic yet mesmerizing blend of old and new. The sleek black aircraft stood out against the bustling activity at the airport. The Mumbai skyline shimmered in the early afternoon heat as the jet descended. The city was a mesmerizing mix of old and new, sprawling endlessly. The sleek black aircraft, its surface gleaming in the sun, contrasted with the colorful, bustling airport below. Inside the cabin, Silvah Foxx fastened his cufflinks with practiced precision. His charcoal black suit, perfectly tailored, bore no trace of the exhausting journey. The moment the jet's wheels touched down, Silvah's expression sharpened. He was entering the tiger's den, and there was no room for error. The hatch hissed open, and Silvah stepped onto the tarmac, rolling a small carry-on behind him. His silver hair glinted in the sunlight, mirroring the sharp, calculating look in his eyes. Removing his aviator sunglasses, he scanned the environment with the precision of a predator. Silvah's arrival in Mumbai was met with a barrage of sensory overload. The hot, humid air pressed against him, the incessant honking of cars and rickshaws creating a chaotic symphony. The smell of spices, garbage, and sweat bombarded his nostrils, but amidst the chaos and cacophony, Silvah remained calm and composed, his sharp eyes scanning the bustling streets with ease. As he made his way through the crowded airport terminal, Silvah couldn't help but marvel at the vibrant and diverse atmosphere of Mumbai. He saw people of all ages, races, and backgrounds moving together in a seamless dance. From the traditional saris and kurtas to modern business suits, the city's fashion was as eclectic as its people. Silvah couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and anticipation for what was to come. Finally stepping onto the tarmac, Silvah felt the heat of the sun on his skin and the sound of the engines as planes took off and landed above. It was a stark contrast to the sterile and controlled environment of the plane. But Silvah thrived in this environment, his senses heightened and his mind sharp. He knew that in this city there was no room for error, and he was ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead. Sights. In stark contrast to the sterile and controlled environment of the plane, the city was chaotic and unpredictable. But Silvah thrived in this environment, his senses heightened and his mind sharp. He was used to the loud noises of the city, the constant chatter and honking of cars. It was in this chaos that he found solace, for the city was his home, and he knew its rhythms and patterns like the back of his hand. In the midst of all this chaos, Silvah's eyes were drawn to the bright yellow and black taxis that honked incessantly, their drivers shouting through rolled-down windows. He could smell the spices wafting from the street vendors' stalls, their vibrant colors beckoning him to take a closer look. The sights, sounds, and smells of the city came together to create a beautiful symphony that only Silvah could truly appreciate. As he made his way through the bustling streets, he couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and anticipation for the challenges that lay ahead. He knew that in this city there was no room for error, and he was ready to take on whatever came his way. The skyscrapers loomed in the distance, a symbol of the city's never-ending growth and progress. Silvah was determined to be a part of that growth, to make a name for himself in this vibrant and chaotic city. Sounds. Bollywood odd music blared from a nearby speaker, filling the air with vibrant melodies that resonated through the bustling streets. The infectious rhythms mingled with the rhythmic clinking of chai glasses, creating a symphony of sounds that captured the essence of the lively atmosphere. The aroma of freshly brewed tea wafted through the crowd, enticing passers-by to stop and indulge in the warm, spiced beverage. Amidst the cacophony of shouting voices, laughter, and animated conversations, a street performer caught the attention of onlookers. He spun in tight circles, his colorful attire swirling around him, while his anklets jingled in perfect harmony with the beat of the music. The crowd gathered around him, captivated by his energy and skill, as he effortlessly transitioned from one dance move to another, embodying the spirit of celebration that permeated the scene. Children laughed and pointed, their eyes wide with wonder, while adults clapped along, some even joining in the dance. The vibrant colors of the performers' costumes and the lively expressions on their faces painted a picture of joy and community, making the moment feel alive and electric. The street was a tapestry of life, woven together by the threads of music, dance, and the shared experience of those who found themselves caught up in the magic of the moment. Subtle danger. Silvah's senses were on high alert as he scanned the busy street, his heart racing with anticipation. The vibrant colors and lively energy of the surrounding crowd were infectious, but Silvah couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As he made his way through the throngs of people, his eyes caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure hovering near a fruit stall. Their intense gaze seemed fixed on Silvah, sending a shiver down his spine. In an instant, the figure vanished into the sea of faces, leaving Silvah with a lingering sense of unease. Despite the subtle danger that lingered in the air, Silvah couldn't help but be drawn in by the lively atmosphere of the street. The sound of music and laughter filled his ears, and the colorful street performers, with their elaborate costumes and painted faces, added to the festive atmosphere. As Silvah wove through the bustling crowds, he observed the intricate dynamics at play, a profound sense of awareness sharpening his every step. The street felt alive, a vibrant tapestry of shared experiences and unspoken connections, each thread revealing opportunities to understand and adapt. His heart swelled with a calculated joy as he moved to the rhythm of the crowd, his mind attuned to the pulsating energy that surrounded him. The air thrummed with the beat of the music, and the infectious elation of others sparked a deliberate focus within him. For a fleeting yet unforgettable moment, he allowed his fears and burdens to slip away, not as a surrender, but as a strategy to fully immerse himself in the vitality of the scene. It was a memory he would analyze and carry forward, a moment of unfiltered joy and connection that reinforced his resolve and sharpened his sense of purpose. Anaya Sharma, a striking and formidable presence, leans against her black SUV, athletic and toned. Her sharp eyes miss nothing as they sweep the area. Her demeanor is calm, but her beauty and alpha female energy command attention. Silvah Foxx's keen eyes remained fixed on the mysterious figure who had vanished as quickly as they had appeared. A tingling sensation crept up his spine as he sensed a hidden threat lurking in the vibrant chaos of Mumbai. The lively atmosphere, with its colorful street performers and melodious Bollywood music, provided the perfect cover for unseen dangers. Fox's instincts, honed over years of espionage, told him that the tiger's reach extended far beyond what they had anticipated. As he navigated the bustling streets, his mind worked like a well-oiled machine, processing the intricate dynamics of the city. He felt a sense of calculated joy as he moved to the rhythm of the crowd, his sharp wit and tactical brilliance attuned to the pulsating energy around him. It was in these moments of immersion that Fox found his strength, his senses heightened and his focus deliberate. Little did he know that the elusive figure he had spotted was connected to Anaya Sharma, the formidable alpha female agent who had captured his interest. As their paths continued to intertwine, the revelation of their intertwined pasts would shake the foundation of their world, challenging their loyalties and pushing them to confront their deepest vulnerabilities. First meeting. Anaya extended her hand as Silvah approached. "Agent Fox, welcome to Mumbai," she said, her tone steady but carrying a hint of wry humor. "I hope you're ready for the chaos." Silvah smirked, his handshake firm. "Chaos is where I thrive." Silvah's first meeting with Agent Sharma was far from ordinary. From the moment he saw her extended hand, he knew their paths were destined to cross. As he shook her hand, he couldn't help but feel drawn to her formidable presence and confident demeanor. Little did he know, their pasts were intertwined in a way that would challenge their loyalties and push them to confront their deepest vulnerabilities. As they worked together, Silvah and Anaya found themselves in the midst of chaos, fighting against a common enemy. Despite their initial differences, they quickly realized they made a formidable team. Their chemistry was undeniable, and as they spent more time together, they couldn't help but develop a strong bond. But as their relationship deepened, so did the complexity of their pasts. With each new revelation, their world was shaken, and their loyalties were put to the test. Silvah and Anaya were forced to confront their deepest fears and insecurities, and in doing so, they discovered a deeper understanding of each other. Their first meeting was just the beginning of their intertwined journey, filled with danger, passion, and the unexpected. 2. Introduction to Anaya Sharma and her personal stakes. Anaya Sharma, a young and ambitious entrepreneur, had always been driven by a desire to make a difference in her community. Growing up in the bustling city of Mumbai, she witnessed firsthand the struggles of those around her. Her personal stakes were high. She was not just building a business, but also striving to create opportunities for others. With a heart full of dreams and a mind sharp with determination, Anaya was ready to face the challenges that lay ahead. The drive through Mumbai. The SUV wove its way through the crowded streets, dodging pedestrians and darting motorcycles with calculated precision. The cacophony of honking horns and the vibrant colors of street vendors created a sensory overload. From the passenger seat, Silvah Foxx observed the city unfolding like a chaotic mosaic of contrasts. The towering skyscrapers stood in stark juxtaposition to the humble shantas, each telling a story of resilience and aspiration. As they navigated through the maze of traffic, Silvah couldn't help but feel the pulse of Mumbai, a city alive with energy, ambition, and an unyielding spirit. The towering skyscrapers are a sight to behold, with their magnificent height and sleek design. Anaya pointed out that these buildings are home to the corporate elites, who run their empires from the comfort of their air-conditioned boardrooms. The SUV continued on, passing through Dharavi, one of the largest slums in the world. The alleys were a bustling maze of life, with children playing with makeshift kites, vendors cooking samosas over open flames, and artisans crafting intricate shapes out of metal. It was a vibrant and chaotic scene, a stark contrast to the orderly and luxurious world of the corporate elites. Silvah Foxx remarked, "It's like two different worlds trying to coexist." Anaya responded, her voice tinged with melancholy, "And that's what makes it vulnerable. The tiger knows this better than anyone." Anaya's brother's disappearance. Anaya's brother had disappeared a few weeks ago in this very neighborhood. The thought weighed heavily on her mind as she drove down these familiar streets. As they passed the park, she remembered how they used to play there as kids. A sudden pang of sorrow washed over her as she realized how much had changed. Silvah, sitting beside her, noticed the shift in Anaya's demeanor and reached out to place a comforting hand on her shoulder. Anaya gave a small smile of gratitude before continuing. "This place used to be so peaceful, but now it feels like it's on the brink of chaos." She glanced at Silvah in the rearview mirror, her eyes filled with sadness. "It's like two different worlds trying to coexist." Silvah nodded in understanding, but Anaya could tell she didn't fully comprehend the weight of her words. "And that's what makes it vulnerable," Anaya added, her voice still laced with sorrow. "The tiger knows this better than anyone." Turning her attention back to the road, her thoughts consumed by her brother's disappearance, Anaya reflected on the stark contrast to the orderly and luxurious world of the corporate elites they were about to enter. "My brother Rohan, he was investigating the tiger's network. He disappeared 2 years ago. There are no leads, no trace." Silvah studied her expression. Anaya didn't look at him. Her gaze was fixed on the road ahead. Instead of pressing her for more information, he offered quiet reassurance. "We'll get answers. But first, we have to stop the tiger from adding more bodies to the count." The camera lingered on Anaya's clenched fists before cutting to the SUV as it pulled into a secure underground parking garage. 3. The Intelligence Bureau safe house was a hub of activity. As analysts hunched over laptops and operatives reviewed intel with laser focus, it buzzed with energy and purpose, a clear reflection of the urgency of their mission. As Silvah and Anaya made their way through the building, they could feel the weight of their responsibility increasing with each step. Finally, they entered a conference room dominated by a digital map of Mumbai. As they approached, Silvah couldn't help but notice Anaya's clenched fists. a clear sign of her determination and resolve. She was a force to be reckoned with, and her presence alone was enough to inspire confidence in the team. As they took their seats, Silvah couldn't help but feel a sense of reassurance from Anaya's quiet words. "We'll get answers." It was clear that she was a natural leader, and her calm assurance in the face of danger was exactly what they needed to succeed in their mission. But first, they had to stop the tiger. The gravity of the situation weighed heavily on Silvah's mind as he looked at the map of Mumbai. The thought of more innocent lives being lost was enough to make his blood boil, but he knew that with Anaya by his side, they would do whatever it takes to prevent the tiger from adding more bodies to the count. As their SUV pulled into a secure underground parking garage, Silvah took a deep breath, knowing that he was part of a highly skilled and dedicated team, led by the formidable Agent Zara Khan. Silvah's heart raced as he entered the SECUR underground parking garage. The weight of the mission ahead of them hung heavy in the air. He knew that they were up against the Tiger, a master assassin and strategic genius, who had already added too many bodies to the count. But Silvah also knew that he was part of a highly skilled and dedicated team, led by the formidable Agent Zara Khan. Zara, known for her tough and resourceful nature, stood by the screen in her tactical gear, her no-nonsense attitude emphasized by her appearance. As Silvah approached, she turned to him and extended a firm handshake. "I've heard about you, Fox. Let's hope you live up to the hype." Silvah smirked confidently. "You'll find I don't disappoint." Zara immediately got down to business, briefing the team on their mission. "If the Tiger's network is active, they'll be hiding in the slums. I've intercepted chatter about mercenary arrivals near Dharavi. We need eyes on the ground, ASAP." Silvah's mind raced as he processed the information. He knew the slums of Mumbai well, having grown up there himself. But he also knew that the Tiger was a master of disguise and deception, making their task even more challenging. As the team prepared to head out, Silvah couldn't help but wonder about the Tiger's true identity and what drove him to become a ruthless killer. Meanwhile, the Tiger himself stood on the rooftop of his luxurious mansion, overlooking the bustling city below. To the outside world, he was known only as Arjun Raikar, a respected billionaire industrialist. But in reality, he was the mastermind behind a vast underground network, pulling the strings of assassinations and political turmoil. His mind was always one step ahead, constantly strategizing and calculating his next move. But little did he know that his long-lost sister, Anaya Sharma, was also in Mumbai, searching for her true identity and unknowingly getting closer to uncovering the truth about the Tiger's double life. The door creaked open, revealing Agent Cole with his signature black duffel bag. His confident strides and piercing gaze commanded attention. As he entered the room, his intimidating presence filled the air. Agent Cole was a force to be reckoned with, known for his brash but effective methods. His sharp eyes took in every detail of the room, assessing potential threats. The sleek weapons adorning his muscular frame served as a reminder of his expertise in the field. Cole sized up Silvah with a smirk. "So, this is the infamous Silvah Foxx. Thought you'd be taller." Without missing a beat, Silvah glanced at the bag and retorted, "Let's hope your aim is better than your first impression." Cole unzipped the bag, revealing an arsenal of firearms. "You give me the tools, and I'll give you results," he said confidently. Team dynamics. The group gathered around the digital map, each taking their place in the operation. Anaya outlined the plan. "We'll start with the slums near Dharavi. Zara's surveillance will pinpoint activity. Cole will be on standby in case things get messy. Silvah and I will lead the recon." Silvah, assessing the team with his usual sharp gaze, quipped, "Efficient. Let's hope the Tiger isn't watching us as closely as we're watching him." Closing scene. As the team prepared to move, the safe house door closed behind them. The camera panned out, showing the Mumbai cityscape twinkling against the darkening sky. The market chase. The strong scent of cardamom and clove permeated the air, mingling with the smoke from the sizzling street food. The aroma was intoxicating, drawing in passers-by with promises of bold flavors and hearty portions. The vendors worked tirelessly, expertly balancing trays of steaming samosas and trays of chai tea as they called out to potential customers. Tourists and locals alike jostled for space, eager to taste the diverse flavors of India. As the sun set, the atmosphere shifted. The once bustling streets began to quiet down, with only a few stragglers left to haggle over the remaining goods. The vendors started to pack up their wares, counting their earnings for the day and making plans for tomorrow's market. The city itself seemed to take a deep breath, settling into a sense of calm as the night approached. The bazaar may have been the heart of Mumbai, but it was the people and their lively energy that truly gave it life. Silvah Foxx, the early 40s American lead agent of an elite international spy agency, stands tall with silver hair and deep brown eyes. His presence exudes confidence and control as he moves through the crowd, scanning every detail with his sharp eyes. His refined features and impeccable dress sense make him effortlessly handsome. Silvah is a charismatic leader, commanding respect with his quiet authority and tactical brilliance. He carries an irresistible charm, though his focus always remains on the mission. His loyalty to his team and code of not causing unnecessary harm make him a force to be reckoned with. Anaya Sharma's mastery over her emotions was put to the test as she worked alongside Silvah Foxx on their latest mission. Despite her fierce independence, she couldn't deny the magnetic pull between them, the electricity that sparked whenever their eyes met. But she knew better than to let her guard down, to give in to her desires and risk the mission. She couldn't afford to let anyone, even Silvah, see her vulnerabilities. As they delved deeper into the dangerous world of espionage and covert operations, Anaya's loyalty to her team and her code of not causing unnecessary harm was put to the ultimate test. She navigated the high-stakes game of deception and manipulation with ease, her sharp mind and quick wit always one step ahead. But as the lines between duty and desire blurred, Anaya couldn't help but question if she was truly fighting for the right side. In the midst of all the chaos and danger, Anaya's unwavering focus and determination to complete the mission never faltered. She was a force to be reckoned with, her skills and abilities making her an invaluable asset to their team. But as her relationship with Silvah deepened and their chemistry intensified, Anaya couldn't help but wonder if she was willing to risk it all for love. Anaya's mission was always her top priority. HR team counted on her to be the strong and unwavering force that she was. Her skills were unmatched, both in combat and in strategy. She held her own in any situation and always emerged victorious. Her confidence and determination were what made her an invaluable asset to their team. But as her relationship with Silvah grew, Anaya couldn't help but feel a shift in her priorities. She never thought she would find love in the midst of her dangerous and unpredictable life. Her heart was torn between her duty to her team and her growing feelings for Silvah. She feared that choosing love would mean sacrificing her commitment to her mission. Yet she couldn't deny the chemistry between them and the pull she felt towards him. Anaya's mind raced with thoughts of what could be, but she knew she couldn't let it distract her from the task at hand. She had a job to do, and she would do it, with the same determination and focus she always had. But deep down, she couldn't help but wonder if love was worth the risk. Would she be able to have both love and her career? Or would she have to choose one over the other? The internal conflict weighed heavily on her as she prepared for her next mission. They reached the prearranged meeting point, and Anaya approached the informant with calm authority. "You wanted to talk," Anaya said, her voice steady but low. "Start talking." The man glanced around, pulling his shawl tighter. Sweat gleamed on his forehead, despite the shade of the stall. "The tiger has eyes everywhere," he whispered hoarsely. "I shouldn't even be here." Fox stepped closer, his tone cutting through the noise like a scalpel. "Then make this count. What do you know?" The informant hesitated, his gaze darting to something behind Fox. Before he could speak, the faint crackle of a radio reached Fox's ears. His instincts flared. In a single motion, Fox turned, his eyes locking onto a man in the crowd wearing an earpiece. The man gestured subtly, and a heartbeat later, gunfire erupted. The informant crumpled to the ground, a single bullet piercing his chest. Blood seeped into the dusty earth as chaos exploded around them. "Move!" Fox shouted, grabbing Anaya's arm. The bazaar erupted into chaos. Shoppers shrieked and dashed away, toppling stalls in their haste. Brightly colored fruits and spices tumbled to the ground, crushed and smeared beneath frantic footsteps. In the midst of the turmoil, masked mercenaries appeared, their automatic rifles scanning the panicked crowd. 2. As the chaos erupted in the bazaar, Anaya's heart raced with adrenaline. She had been trained for this, and now was her chance to prove herself. With a determined look, she followed Fox's lead, sprinting through the maze of stalls and alleys. The vibrant colors and aromas that usually filled the bazaar were now replaced with screams and the sounds of destruction. As she ran, Anaya could see masked mercenaries emerging from the shadows, their weapons at the ready. She could feel the weight of their presence, their ruthless determination to catch their target. Anaya knew she had to stay focused and keep moving, avoiding the obstacles and debris that littered her path. Meanwhile, Fox had his own plan. With his sharp eyes, he spotted a masked operative slipping into an alley and knew that was their chance to catch them. He signaled to Anaya, and they split up, each taking a different route. The chase was on, and Anaya could feel her heart pounding in her chest as she sprinted through the bazaar, determined to catch their target and bring them to justice. Fox and Anaya, working as a well-oiled team, had been on the tail of the notorious masked operative for weeks. This was their chance to finally catch the elusive criminal and put an end to their reign of terror. As they split up, each taking a different route through the bustling bazaar, their adrenaline was pumping, and their determination to succeed was strong. Anaya weaved through the crowded marketplace, her eyes scanning for any sign of the operative. She could feel the weight of her weapon at her side, ready to be drawn at a moment's notice. Her heart was pounding in her chest, a mix of excitement and nerves as she chased after her target. She could hear the commotion behind her as Fox closed in, the sound of his footsteps and the shouts of vendors and bystanders urging them on. As she turned another corner, Anaya caught a glimpse of the masked operative up ahead, their distinctive attire making them stand out among the sea of people. She pushed herself even harder, her determination growing with each step. This was it, the moment they had been waiting for. With a burst of speed, she closed the distance and prepared to take down the criminal once and for all. Anaya's heart pounded as she sprinted through the bustling streets of Mumbai. She had been training for this moment her whole life, and she wasn't going to let anyone or anything stand in her way. She knew that she had to catch the criminal before they could cause any more harm. The adrenaline coursed through her veins, pushing her to her limits as she weaved through the crowds of people. Each step brought her closer to her goal, her determination growing with each passing second. Her eyes narrowed as she finally caught sight of the masked operative. With a burst of speed, she closed the distance and prepared to take them down. She knew that this was the moment she had been waiting for, the moment that would define her as a skilled and capable mercenary. As she launched herself towards the criminal, she could feel her training and instincts taking over. She twisted, disarmed, and struck with brutal efficiency, leaving the operative sprawled on the ground. Anaya's heart raced with triumph as she realized that she had successfully completed her mission. Meanwhile, Fox was hot on the trail of the masked operative, determined to bring them to justice. He followed the criminal across the rooftops of the bazaar, the stunning view of Mumbai, nothing more than a blur, as he focused on the chase. Each leap and jump took him one step closer to his target, his years of training and experience allowing him to navigate the uneven terrain with ease. As he neared the final jump, he could feel his heart pounding with anticipation. Without hesitation, he gathered his momentum and leaped towards the lower rooftop, his arms reaching out to catch himself as he landed with a roll. He quickly got back, on his feet, ready to continue the pursuit and ensure that the criminal was brought to justice. 3. He took a deep breath, knowing that this could be the final confrontation. As he approached the water tower, he could see the masked operative in the distance. The man's chest was heaving, his breaths coming in short gasps as he tried to catch his breath. But even in his exhaustion, his posture remained defiant, as if he was ready to face whatever came his way. Fox's heart raced with anticipation, knowing that he was just moments away from catching the criminal who had eluded him for so long. Without hesitation, he gathered his momentum and leaped towards the lower rooftop, his arms reaching out to catch himself as he landed with a roll. As he quickly got back on his feet, he could feel the adrenaline coursing through his veins, fueling his determination to bring the criminal to justice. The chase was far from over, but Fox was determined to see it through to the end. He knew that the masked operative would stop at nothing to escape, but Fox was equally determined to stop him. With each step he took, he could feel the weight of the moment growing heavier, knowing that this was the final showdown between them. But he was ready for it, and he would not rest until the criminal was behind bars. Fox drew his pistol, his voice steady but charged with authority. "You're done running. Tell me about the tiger." Fox's jaw clenched as he watched the criminal disappear into the smoke. He knew this was his last chance to get answers about the tiger. As the haze cleared, there was no trace of the operative. Fox's heart sank, but he refused to give up. He had devoted his entire career to taking down this notorious criminal, and he would not stop now. Determined to find his target, Fox scanned the rooftop for any sign of the operative. He knew he had to act fast before the criminal slipped away once again. His hand tightened around his pistol as he cautiously moved towards the edge of the rooftop. Suddenly, he heard a faint noise behind him. Whirling around, he found himself face to face with the operative, who had been hiding in the shadows. Fox raised his pistol, ready to make the arrest. He could feel the weight of his mission on his shoulders as he stared down his target. The two men stood in a tense standoff, each waiting for the other to make a move. Fox's voice was steady and commanding as he demanded answers. He would not rest until the tiger was behind bars, and he was willing to do whatever it took to make that happen. For a moment, the operative said nothing. Then, with deliberate calm, he reached into his pocket and tossed a small object onto the ground. Smoke billowed instantly, thick and suffocating. Fox fired a warning shot into the haze, the sharp crack echoing across the rooftop. But when the smoke cleared, the operative was gone. The message left behind on the ground was a neatly folded piece of paper. Fox picked it up, unfolding it carefully. Scrawled in bold, precise letters were 3 words: "Gateway at dawn." Fox's jaw tightened. The tiger always left a trail, but this felt more like bait than a clue. "Let's see where this one leads," he muttered. Anaya's arrival. Moments later, Anaya climbed onto the rooftop, slightly winded but unharmed. Her eyes immediately locked onto the note in Fox's hand. "The Gateway of India," she asked, frowning. "That's bold, even for him." Fox nodded, his expression grim. "Bold or a trap, either way we're going." Fox and Anaya stood on the rooftop, their eyes fixed on the note. The Gateway of India loomed in the distance, its grandeur overshadowed by the foreboding feeling that seemed to hang in the air. They knew they had to go. It was their only chance at finding the answers they sought. But as they looked at each other, a sense of hesitation crept in. Was this truly the right choice? Was it worth the risk? But then they remembered all they had been through, the sacrifices they had made, and the lives they had lost. They couldn't turn back now. With a determined nod, they set off towards the Gateway of India, knowing that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. As they made their way through the winding streets of Mumbai, they couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The city seemed to be holding its breath, as though waiting for something to happen. And as they finally approached the gateway, they were met with a sight that took their breath away. The once bustling monument was now eerily quiet, its grand architecture now a haunting reminder of the danger that awaited the M. But they steeled their resolve and stepped forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The first glimpse of the tiger. The dim glow of surveillance monitors cast a soft, flickering light across the room, creating an atmosphere thick with tension. The safe house, hidden deep within a forgotten industrial zone on the outskirts of Mumbai, exuded secrecy and urgency. Maps of the city adorned the walls, crisscrossed with strings and markers that connected key locations, each one a vital piece of a deadly puzzle. The faint hum of distant traffic blended with the sporadic crackle of static from the monitors, the only sounds breaking the heavy silence. Silvah Foxx leaned over the desk, his piercing eyes locked on a frozen frame of surveillance footage. His tactical gear, sleek and functional, bore faint smudges of dust from the chaotic chase through the bazaar earlier that day. Beside him stood Anaya Sharma, her arms crossed and her expression resolute. Despite the exhaustion shadowing her features, her gaze remained sharp and unyielding, a testament to her unwavering determination. "Rewind it again," Silvah said, his voice low and deliberate. Silvah watched the footage intently, his mind racing as he tried to piece together the events of the day. The chaotic chase through the bazaar had left him feeling drained, but he couldn't afford to let exhaustion cloud his judgment. Beside him stood Anaya Sharma, her presence providing a sense of calm amidst the chaos. Her arms were crossed and her expression resolute, a testament to her unwavering determination. Despite the exhaustion shadowing her features, her gaze remained sharp and unyielding. Silvah's voice was low and deliberate as he spoke, his focus solely on the footage playing in front of them. He knew that the key to solving this mystery lay within these images, and he was determined to find it. "Rewind it again," he instructed, his fingers tapping impatiently on the desk. Anaya nodded silently, her eyes never leaving the screen as she followed his command. The footage played backward, revealing new details with each passing second. Silvah paused at a wide-angle shot, his brow furrowing in concentration as he adjusted the frame. He could feel himself getting closer to the truth with each passing second. As the footage continued to play, Silvah and Anaya worked tirelessly to unravel the events of the day. The chaos of the bazaar slowly began to make sense, and they could start to see the pieces falling into place. It was a testament to their dedication and teamwork that they were able to make progress despite the exhaustion and confusion. As the footage came to an end, Silvah couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. They were one step closer to uncovering the truth, and he knew that with Anaya by his side, they would get there. "There," he muttered, zooming in on a corner of the image. In the background, a shadowy figure stood, motionless on a rooftop. As he stared at the blurred image on the computer screen, the detective couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. After days of dead ends and false leads, the shadowy figure on the rooftop was a promising clue. He zoomed in on the corner of the image, determined to uncover any details that could lead to the truth. With Anaya by his side, he knew they were one step closer to solving the case. There was something different about this figure, unlike the mercenaries who had been firing indiscriminately. Despite the chaos and danger, he exuded a sense of calm control. The detective couldn't help but admire the way he blended into the night, clad in black tactical gear. But then a glint caught his eye, a tiger emblem stitched on the figure's shoulder. This was a detail worth exploring. Was it a symbol of a secret organization? A clue to the figure's identity? The detective's mind raced with possibilities, his determination growing with each passing moment. "That's not a bystander," Silvah said, more to himself than to Anaya. Anaya stepped closer, leaning over his shoulder. "Enhance it," she said, her voice steady but tinged with urgency. Fox's fingers flew over the keyboard, his eyes glued to the screen as he worked to enhance the grainy surveillance footage. As the image sharpened, his sharp intake of breath was echoed by Silvah's gasp. The figure's identity was now unmistakable. His broad shoulders and composed stance, a clear indication of his lethal capabilities. But it was the emblem on his shoulder that sent a chill down Fox's spine. The symbol of a tiger, a silent but powerful declaration of his true identity. Fox had heard of the tiger before, a master assassin with an unmatched strategic mind. His reputation preceded him, and Fox couldn't help but feel a sense of dread at the thought of crossing paths with this formidable foe. Anaya leaned in closer, her voice tinged with urgency as she urged Fox to enhance the image further. Fox complied, his determination growing with each passing moment. He knew that capturing the tiger would be no easy feat, but he was fueled by the challenge. And as the image continued to sharpen, Fox couldn't help but wonder what role this enigmatic figure would play in the case. Fox had been intently studying the footage, his mind racing with the implications of the tiger's presence. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this enigmatic figure than met the eye. As he replayed the footage for the umpteenth time, his determination grew stronger with each passing moment. Capturing the tiger would be no easy feat, but Fox was fueled by the challenge. His years of experience as a detective had taught him to never underestimate his opponents, and he knew the tiger was a formidable adversary. But as the image on the screen continued to sharpen, Fox couldn't help but wonder what role this master assassin and strategic genius would play in the case. Anaya's voice broke through his thoughts, her brows furrowed as she pointed to a moment in the footage where the tiger turned his head slightly toward the camera. "He knew exactly where the cameras were," she said, her tone filled with a mix of awe and unease. Fox nodded in agreement, his expression darkening. "No, this was deliberate. He wanted us to see him," he said, his mind already working on how to use this new information to their advantage. The tiger may have the upper hand now, but Fox was determined to outsmart him and bring him to justice. After the initial shock of realizing the tiger had been leading them on, Fox's mind raced with the possibilities. If he was deliberately showing himself, what could he be up to? What was his end game? The questions crowded his mind, but he pushed them aside, knowing that they needed to focus on how to take down the tiger. He couldn't let personal curiosity get in the way of justice. Fox's expression turned stormy as he stared at the screen, his eyes narrowing as he studied the intricate details of the tiger emblem. He was determined to outsmart the tiger and bring him to justice. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was confident in his abilities. He had been chasing the tiger for years now, and he wasn't about to give up. He would do whatever it took to put an end to the tiger's reign of terror. As Fox continued to analyze the footage, his mind worked overtime, coming up with different strategies and plans. He knew that they needed to act fast before the tiger slipped away again. But this time, they had the upper hand. This time, they knew what the tiger was up to. And Fox was determined to use that to their advantage and finally bring the elusive criminal to justice. "He's playing a game," Fox said finally, "and he wants us to know we're already part of it." Anaya couldn't believe what she was seeing. The tiger, her brother. She remembered the days they spent together as children before they were separated. Her mind raced with questions. How could her brother become this elusive criminal, this master assassin? Was it just a game to him, as Fox had theorized? Her thoughts were interrupted by the realization that she knew what the tiger was up to. She had seen the same patterns in her brother's behavior growing up. He was always one step ahead, always in control. And now he was playing this dangerous game, and she and Fox were just pawns in it. As she watched the footage, Anaya's mind was flooded with memories of their childhood. The happy moments they shared, the struggles they endured together. She remembered his sharp mind, his ability to strategize and outthink others. But she also remembered the coldness in his eyes, the lack of emotion that always unsettled her. Tears welled up in Anaya's eyes as she realized that she may never truly know her brother. The tiger was a master of disguise, both in his physical appearance and in his emotions. But one thing was certain. She was determined to bring him to justice and uncover the truth behind his double life. In her mind, fleeting images began to flicker like fragments of an old film reel. Her brother Rohan, grinning as he adjusted her aim at a shooting range, his voice teasing but warm. "You're going to outshoot me one day, sis." The two of them sharing chai at a roadside stall, laughing about a mission gone awry. Their last conversation, where he had promised to return from his mission investigating the tiger's network. The warm memories gave way to darkness. She saw the blurry outline of a missing persons report with Rohan's photo. The word "presumed dead" was stamped in bold red letters across the page, a scar that had never truly healed. "Anaya," Fox's voice broke through her haze. She blinked, realizing her fists were clenched tightly at her sides. Fox stood in front of her now, his gaze steady and piercing. "This isn't just about the tiger for you, is it?" he asked quietly, his tone more an observation than a question. Anaya hesitated, her jaw tightening. When she spoke, her voice was sharp, laced with anger and grief. "He took my brother, or worse, turned him into one of his shadows. I won't stop until I find out the truth." Fox nodded, his expression unreadable but understanding. "We'll find him, but don't let your emotions cloud your judgment. The tiger wants us off balance, and right now, he's winning." For a moment, silence hung between them. Anaya's gaze dropped to the floor before she straightened, her resolve hardening. "You're right. But this isn't just about revenge, Fox. It's about justice." "Then let's make sure we get it," he replied. Anaya's heart raced as she listened to Fox's words. She couldn't believe that they were being hunted, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of fear and vulnerability. But as she looked into Fox's determined eyes, she knew that they had to stay strong. They couldn't let this threat stop them from seeking justice. Fox's mind was already working on a plan. He returned to the desk and pulled out a large map of Mumbai, determined to find any clues that could lead them to their attacker. He pinned the map down and circled the location of the bizarre ambush, then added marks for the previous assassination sites. As he connected the dots, a chilling realization dawned on him. Their attacker was systematically targeting their team. Anaya's resolve hardened as she looked at the map. She knew that this was more than just a personal vendetta against them. Their attacker wanted to throw them off balance and make them feel vulnerable. But Anaya was determined not to let that happen. She was ready to fight for justice, no matter what it took. With a fierce determination, she turned to Fox and said, "We can't let him win. We have to stay one step ahead and make sure we get the justice we deserve." "They're not random," he said, more to himself than to Anaya. Anaya joined him, studying the map. "High-profile public spaces," she noted. "Places where chaos spreads fast." He's testing response times, law enforcement, emergency services, and us. Fox added another mark to the map. He's setting the stage for something bigger, and now he knows we're here. As if on cue, Fox picked up an upholstered envelope left behind at the safe house earlier that evening. Inside was a single slip of paper. The handwriting was elegant, almost taunting. It read, "You're not the only predator in this jungle." Fox's jaw tightened as he placed the note on the table. His voice was low, almost a growl. "He's baiting us." Anaya's eyes flicked to the note, then back to the map. "And you don't take bait." "Not without a plan," Fox replied. The two stood in tense silence, their eyes locked on the map. The faint hum of the monitors behind them seemed to grow louder, underscoring the gravity of the moment. Fox's expression was grim, his jaw clenched in determination as he studied the intricate details of their target's plan. The final moment had arrived. The Tiger, a master assassin and strategic genius, had been baiting them all along, luring them into his trap with calculated precision. Fox knew they couldn't afford to make any mistakes, not with the lives of countless innocent people at stake. Anaya's eyes flicked to the note once more, her mind racing as she tried to come up with a plan. The Tiger was known for his ruthless tactics and his ability to outthink and outmaneuver his opponents. But Fox was no ordinary opponent, and neither was Anaya. They were a team, a force to be reckoned with, and they were not about to let the Tiger get the best of them, an oath without a fight. The only way to win this game is to outthink him. Fox nodded, his eyes narrowing. "Then let's make our move before he makes his." The tension in the room was palpable as Fox and Anaya exchanged a knowing glance. They had been preparing for this moment for weeks, studying the Tiger's every move, anticipating his next move. But they knew that their opponent was a force to be reckoned with. He had proven time and time again that he was not to be underestimated. As they huddled around the table, going over their strategies one last time, Fox's mind raced with thoughts of their adversary. The Tiger was a master assassin, a strategic genius, and a billionaire industrialist. His double life and multiple aliases made him almost impossible to track down, but they had managed to find his safe house. Now it was time to make their move. Fox's eyes narrowed as he looked at the maps and monitors spread out before them. He knew that the Tiger was watching and waiting for them to make a move. But they had a plan. They had to outthink him, anticipate his every move. Fox knew that this was the only way to defeat him. They couldn't let him get the best of them, not without a fight. The train's rumble faded into the background as Fox and Anaya made their way towards the safe house. The Tiger may have been a formidable opponent, but they were determined to come out on top. They were ready to face whatever challenges he threw their way. Fox took a deep breath and nodded at Anaya. It was time to make their move before the Tiger made his. The Gala Trap. The opulent colonial-era mansion stood as a beacon of wealth and power in the heart of Mumbai. The pristine white facade was a symbol of grandeur and extravagance, a testament to the opulence of its inhabitants. The mansion exuded an air of superiority and sophistication, making it a coveted destination for the elite and influential. Its towering ceilings were adorned with intricate and ornate designs, showcasing the wealth and taste of its owners. As the sun set over the bustling city, the lights artfully placed around the mansion illuminated its magnificent facade, casting a warm and inviting glow. The mansion seemed to come to life as the chandeliers hanging from the ceilings began to twinkle, adding to the grandeur of the structure. Inside, the warm golden hue created a mesmerizing ambience, making it feel like a palace fit for royalty. The opulent colonial-era mansion was not just a symbol of wealth and power, but also a reflection of the rich history and culture of Mumbai. It stood tall and proud, a true masterpiece of architectural brilliance. drawing admiration and envy from all those who laid their eyes upon it. The mansion was a living, breathing piece of history, a testament to the city's past and present, and a beacon of hope for its future. The mansion's grandeur was unmatched, its walls holding secrets and stories of a bygone era. Its halls echoed with the footsteps of generations of the city's most influential residents, their legacies forever intertwined with the opulence of the estate. As the sun set, the golden light danced upon the mansion's intricate facade, casting a romantic glow over the festivities within. The night was a celebration of the city's success, a testament to its resilience and determination to thrive. The mansion, with its sprawling gardens and majestic architecture, served as a reminder of the city's past triumphs and a beacon of hope for its future endeavors. It stood as a symbol of prestige and prosperity, a constant source of inspiration for all those privileged enough to step foot within its walls. As the night wore on, the mansion came alive with the sounds of music and laughter, a vibrant contrast to its stoic exterior. It was a place of luxury and indulgence, where the worries of the world were left behind and only the present moment mattered. The mansion was not just a building, but a living, breathing entity with a soul that radiated warmth and beauty, leaving a lasting impression on all those who entered its gates. Silvah Foxx's sharp features softened as he took in the opulent surroundings of the mansion. It was a stark contrast to the gritty world he was used to as the lead agent of an elite international spy agency. But here, in this luxurious haven, he could let go of the constant stress and pressure of his job. The worries of the world were left behind, and only the present moment mattered. As he made his way through the mansion, Silvah couldn't help but appreciate the intricate details and soulful warmth that radiated from every corner. It was more than just a building. It was a living, breathing entity that left a lasting impression on all who entered its gates. Silvah himself couldn't deny the alluring charm and indulgence of the place, a much-needed break from his high-stakes and dangerous work. But even in this moment of relaxation, Silvah's trained eyes scanned his surroundings, always on guard and ready for any potential threats. He was a man of precise and calculated movements, whether in his tailored suit or tactical gear, and as he mingled with the other guests, his smooth charm and magnetic presence were impossible to ignore. But beneath the suave facade, Silvah carried the weight of his responsibilities and unwavering loyalty to his team. In this world of luxury and indulgence, Silvah Foxx was still a man with a mission. Silvah's keen gaze meticulously assessed the opulent chamber, the escape routes, the subtly positioned security personnel, and the servers navigating the throng with their platters of delicacies. All were meticulously imprinted on her mind. She advanced purposefully towards a knot of influential executives gathered around a dazzling ice masterpiece. Flashing a disarming smile, he introduced himself as an investment consultant from Europe, blending seamlessly into their circle. One of the businessmen, a portly man in a navy tuxedo, visibly tensed when Silvah casually mentioned the recent assassination of a politician. "Tragic, isn't it?" Silvah said, his tone light but probing. "Volatile times often bring unexpected outcomes." The man stammered a weak reply before excusing himself, his nervous demeanor betraying more than he intended. Silvah's gaze followed the man's retreat, his suspicion quietly noted. Anaya Sharma, positioned on a nearby balcony overlooking the gala, blended effortlessly into the scene in a sleek black dress, her concealed shoulder holster pressed against her ribs, a silent reassurance of her readiness. Her gaze flitted over the crowd, assessing potential threats and memorizing faces. This was her element, and she relished in the adrenaline rush of being undercover. As she sipped her champagne, her eyes locked with Silvah's across the room. He raised his glass in a subtle salute, and a smirk tugged at the corner of her lips. She enjoyed their game of cat and mouse, but she also knew that Silvah was a valuable ally in their line of work. She trusted him, but she also knew that he was always watching, always trying to unravel her layers. Anaya's mind drifted to the recent assassination of a politician and the suspicions surrounding it. She wondered if Silvah had any leads on the case, and if so, if he would share them with her. She couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt, knowing that she was keeping secrets from him as well. But in their line of work, trust was a luxury they couldn't afford. She took another sip of champagne, her mind already strategizing for the next move. The comms crackled, a vicious static bite in her ear, mirroring the razor-sharp tension in the room. Below, the opulent ballroom swam in a hazy, cigarette smoke-infused light. The scent of expensive perfume warred with the metallic tang of fear, a subtle but undeniable undercurrent. "Rajiv Batra," she hissed, the word a venomous whisper against the opulent backdrop. "Just arrived. 2 gorillas flanking him like Shadow-S, heading for the private lounge. He looks nervous." Her voice, though controlled, carried a tremor, a barely perceptible thrill of the hunt. Silvah, a man sculpted from Shadow-S and expensive whiskey, didn't even glance up from the amber liquid swirling in his hand. The gilded bar reflected the cold gleam in his eyes that had seen too much, known too much. His voice, a low growl that vibrated through the opulent space, was laced with chilling patience. "Patience, Viper. Let the rat sniff around. Let's see just how much he's willing to spill before we break his teeth." The unspoken threat hung heavier than the smoke, thick and suffocating. As the camera panned across the room, it briefly settled on Rajiv Batra. He was a stout man with a confident gait, his cigar firmly held between his teeth. His custom-made suit spoke of wealth, and his demeanor reeked of arrogance. His voice, a low growl that vibrated through the opulent space, was laced with chilling patience. "Patience, Viper. Let the rat sniff around. Let's see just how much he's willing to spill before we break his teeth." The unspoken threat hung heavier than the smoke, thick and suffocating. Batra's demeanor shifted as he waited for the rat to reveal its secrets. His bodyguards remained tense, ready to pounce on any sign of betrayal. As the tension in the room mounted, Batra's eyes narrowed and his grip on the cigar tightened. The rat's hesitation only fueled his impatience. He was not a man who was used to waiting, especially not in his own territory. But he knew that patience was key in this situation. He wanted to know the extent of the rat's knowledge before he took any action, and once he had that information, he would deal with the traitor accordingly. Batra's mind was already racing with possible scenarios and outcomes, but he kept his calm facade intact. He had worked hard to establish his power and influence, and he was not about to let some rat ruin it all. As he exhaled a cloud of smoke, his eyes flickered towards the rat, silently daring him to betray him. He was a viper, ready to strike at any moment. The room exuded opulence, its crimson walls complemented by antique furniture and a bar lined with rare bottles of whiskey and rum. The faint murmur of the gala outside only heightened the charged atmosphere within. Rajiv Batra stood by the bar, a cigar in hand, its smoke curling delicately into the air. His usual confident smirk wavered as Anaya Sharma stepped forward, her piercing gaze locking onto his. "We know about your shipments," she said, her voice firm. "Talk, and you might walk out of here alive." Batra hesitated, his bravado flickering under her intense gaze. He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice as he smirked. "You have no idea how deep this goes," he said. "The tiger isn't just a man. He's an idea." Before Anaya could respond, Silvah Foxx entered the room, his calm, commanding presence filling the space. The air seemed to shift, a quiet authority radiating from him as his sharp eyes scanned the room. He moved with deliberate precision, every step measured, every gesture purposeful. Anaya froze, her words caught in her throat, as if the weight of his presence had stolen them away. "Well," Silvah finally spoke, his voice smooth yet firm. "I trust there's a reason for this gathering." His gaze settled on Anaya, piercing yet unreadable, waiting for her to explain. "Ideas don't fund mercenaries or assassinations, Rajiv," Silvah said, his tone smooth but lethal. "Who's pulling the strings?" Silva's sharp gaze swept across the room, taking in every detail. His eyes landed on Batra, who had a flicker of genuine fear in his expression. Silva's smooth yet firm voice broke the tension as he questioned the reason for their gathering. He turned to Anaya, silently urging her to provide an explanation. As the tension rose, Rajiv's name was mentioned. Silva's tone turned lethal as he questioned who was truly pulling the strings. The atmosphere in the room became even more tense as the faint beep, beep, beep interrupted the conversation. Silva's sharp eyes immediately darted to the source of the sound, a blinking red light beneath a nearby serving tray. Silva's instincts kicked in as he approached the tray cautiously. He knew that this was not a coincidence and that danger was looming. His voice cut through the room like a blade, demanding answers and ready to take action. The tension in the room was palpable as everyone waited for Silvah to uncover the truth behind the mysterious red light. "Bomb! Everyone down!" Silvah's years of training and experience kicked in as he took control of the chaotic situation. He surveyed the area with a trained eye, quickly assessing the damage and potential threats. The red light that had caught his attention earlier was now confirmed to be a bomb, and he knew time was of the essence. With a sharp whistle, he signaled his team to gather around him. His mind raced as he formulated a plan, taking into account the safety of the guests and the need to apprehend the perpetrators. Silva's sharp features were etched with determination as he barked out orders, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. He knew that this explosion was not a coincidence and that danger was looming. His years as the lead agent of an elite international spy agency had taught him to always expect the unexpected. As his team sprang into action, Silva's gaze swept across the room, his intense eyes scanning for any signs of danger. The tension in the room was palpable as everyone waited for him to uncover the truth behind the attack. With a calm yet firm voice, he directed his team to secure the perimeter and gather evidence. Silvah was ready to take action and get to the bottom of this mysterious red light, no matter the cost. Evacuate the injured, clear the exits. Silva's swift movements and commanding voice were a testament to his extensive training and experience. He was a natural leader, able to keep a cool head in the midst of chaos. Anaya, on the other hand, was a force to be reckoned with. Despite the smoke and flames, she had her sights set on Rajiv Batra, determined to catch the perpetrator behind the attack. Anaya's athletic figure allowed her to navigate through the burning building with ease, her sharp mind strategizing the best way to apprehend Batra. As she closed in on him, her thoughts couldn't help but drift to Silvah. They made a dynamic team, their contrasting styles and personalities complementing each other perfectly. But Anaya knew she couldn't let her guard down, especially not in the face of such a deadly threat. With a burst of adrenaline, Anaya tackled Batra to the ground, securing him in handcuffs before he could escape. She couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction as she brought him to justice, knowing she had played a crucial role in uncovering the truth behind the attack. Silvah's voice cut through the chaos, directing his team to safety and securing the evidence needed to solve the case. Together, they made a formidable duo, always ready to take action and get to the bottom of any mystery, no matter the cost. "Batra's on the move," she shouted into her earpiece. "I'm in pursuit." The chase and final revelation. The pursuit spilled into the streets of Mumbai, the chaos of the gala bleeding into the city's already vibrant energy. Sirens wailed in the distance as firefighters rushed to contain the flames, their lights casting flickering red and blue patterns against the night sky. Rajiv Batra, surprisingly agile for his size, darted into a narrow alley. He shoved a fruit cart into Anaya Sharma's path, but she vaulted over it with effortless precision. Silvah Foxx, cutting through a parallel alley, coordinated with Anaya over their earpieces. Silvah Foxx, an African-American agent with a commanding presence, chased the suspect in Mumbai. His silver hair and intense eyes were a stark contrast to the chaotic sirens and flickering lights. Coordinating with Anaya, he showed off his agility and charm. As the pursuit spilled into the streets of Mumbai, the chaos of the gala bled into the city's vibrant energy. Sirens wailed as firefighters rushed to contain the flames, casting red and blue patterns against the night sky. Silvah Foxx coordinated with Anaya Sharma, their earpieces crackling with instructions. The pursuit spilled into the streets of Mumbai, the chaos of the gala bleeding into the city's already vibrant energy. Sirens wailed in the distance as firefighters rushed to contain the flames, their lights casting flickering red and blue patterns against the night sky. Rajiv Batra, surprisingly agile for his size, darted into a narrow alley. He shoved a fruit cart into Anaya Sharma's path, but she vaulted over it with effortless precision. Silvah Foxx, cutting through a parallel alley, coordinated with Anaya over their earpieces. The sounds of the city were drowned out by their focused determination. The chaos of the gala spilled into Mumbai's streets, sirens wailing in the distance. Rajiv Batra darted into an alley, shoving a fruit cart in Anaya Sharma's path. Silvah Foxx coordinated with her over their earpieces, his silver hair catching the flickering lights. Silvah Foxx, an agile and charismatic leader, cut through a parallel alley. Anaya vaulted over the cart, her striking presence commanding attention. Their team's composure and skills were on display, their mission to stop the threat while minimizing harm. "Push him left," Silvah instructed. "I'll intercept ahead." Anaya's tactical training shone as she anticipated Batra's movements, forcing him toward a dead-end alley. Silvah appeared at the other end, blocking his escape. Breathing heavily, Rajiv Batra stumbled to a stop, his defiant expression faltering as Silvah advanced. "End of the line, Batra," Silvah said, his voice icy. Before Batra could respond, a shadow emerged from the darkness. A masked operative, clad in black tactical gear, raised a silenced pistol and fired a single shot. The bullet struck Batra in the chest, and he crumpled to the ground. Anaya fired at the operative, but the figure vanished into the shadows, disappearing as swiftly as he'd appeared. Batra's final words, Silvah knelt beside the dying Rajiv Batra, his gaze steady, despite the tension thrumming through his veins. Batra's breathing was ragged, his eyes wide with pain and fear. "The tiger," he gasped, "has planned something bigger, much bigger." Batra's eyes fluttered shut as his final breath escaped him. Closing scene. Anaya clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms as frustration simmered just beneath the surface. "He was silenced before he could tell us anything," she said, her voice tight and edged with anger. The air around them was thick with the acrid scent of smoke, remnants of the chaos from the gala. Silvah stood over the lifeless body, his expression grim as his sharp eyes traced the clean, deliberate cut of Batra's wound. "Professional," he muttered under his breath, the single word laced with both admiration and disgust. The tiger didn't, their orange light flickering like ghostly warnings. Her jaw tightened, determination hardening her features. "Then we need to find out what he didn't want us to know," she said firmly, her voice low but resolute, as though the very act of speaking it solidified. The desert ambush. The moon, a malevolent eye in the inky black, glared down on the abandoned dockyard. its sickly silver light painting the scene in shades of dread. The air hung thick and heavy, a miasma of salt spray and decaying metal, the stench of rust and brine clawing at my throat. Each shadow, elongated and grotesque under the lunar glare, seemed to writhe with a life of its own. This wasn't just a forgotten relic. It was a mausoleum, a sprawling graveyard of rusted behemoths, shipping containers like skeletal coffins, their paint peeled back to reveal the raw, angry red of corrosion beneath. Derelict cranes, their skeletal arms reaching towards a merciless sky, stood sentinel over the scene, their rusted joints groaning in the phantom wind. The warehouses, crumbling monoliths of concrete and despair, seemed to whisper secrets of forgotten tragedies, their broken windows like empty sockets staring out at the desolate expanse. A shiver, born not of cold, but of primal fear, ran down my spine. This place held something else, something ancient and deeply unsettling, something that gnawed at the edges of my sanity. The air was thick with the smell of salt water and oil, conjuring images of a bustling port. The pungent scent tickled my nostrils, a reminder of the ocean's vastness and power. As the waves crashed against the shore, the salty aroma intensified, bringing a sense of adventure and danger to the night. The salty tang of the ocean mingled with the acrid stench of oil, creating a unique and overwhelming scent. It was as if the sea and its creatures were in a constant battle with the machines and pollution of man. Despite the darkness, the smells painted a vivid picture of the vastness of the ocean and its untamable nature. The air was a sensory overload, the smell of salt water and oil permeating every breath I took. It was a reminder of the harshness and beauty of the ocean, a reminder that it could both sustain and destroy. The distant crash of waves only added to the intensity, creating an eerie soundtrack to the night and heightening the senses. Silvah Foxx, clad in sleek black tactical gear, crouched low behind a stack of crates, his sharp eyes darting with precision. Beside him, Anaya Sharma mirrored his every move, her motions deliberate and composed. Just a few steps behind, Agent Zara Khan expertly maneuvered a surveillance drone, her focus unwavering. The only sound was the drone's silent hum as it hovered steadily above the trio, capturing every movement with its high-tech camera. Fox's heart raced as he scanned the area, his senses on high alert. Anaya's training kicked in, her muscles tensed and ready to strike at a moment's notice. Zara's hands moved deftly over the controls, her mind sharp and analytical as she assessed the situation. They were a well-oiled machine, each member of the team playing their part perfectly. Fox's role was to lead and strategize. Anaya's was to be his second in command, and Zara's was to provide surveillance and backup. Together, they were a force to be reckoned with, their skills and training honed to perfection. As they moved in sync, the only sound that could be heard was the occasional rustle of leaves and the soft beep of the drone's controls. Silvah Foxx, the striking lead agent, exudes confidence and control. Anaya Sharma, a formidable alpha female, is fiercely independent and guarded. Beneath their composed exteriors, their chemistry is undeniable, but relationships in their world are dangerous. The drone's feed displayed a grid of heat signatures, armed mercenaries patrolling the area, their flashlights sweeping across the ground. Agent Cole, positioned further back, checked the ammunition on his rifle. His brash demeanor was momentarily subdued as he fell into the rhythm of the mission. Silva's voice, a razor honed by ice and seasoned by 1,000 shadowed battles, sliced through the calm silence. The metallic tang of blood, his own a phantom taste, clung to the airwaves even as his words, precise and lethal as viper strikes, lanced into their minds. He smelled ozone and burnt metal, the acrid stench a familiar companion to the cold dread that gripped his heart, a dread that pulsed with the rhythmic thrum of his own frantic heartbeat. His voice, a low growl barely audible above the static, held the weight of years spent walking the razor's edge, a life carved from the raw materials of betrayal and sacrifice. This was no calm. This was the stillness before the storm, a predator's patience before the kill. Zara, track their patrols. Anaya and I will infiltrate the main warehouse. Cole, you've got the perimeter. If you see anything unusual, signal us. Zara's reply was crisp. Roger that. 3 guards near the southern entrance. 2 more circling the east perimeter. Timing suggests a gap of 10 seconds between rotations. Fox nodded, his lips curling into a faint smirk. Let's make it count. Silvah, a wraith in obsidian silk, moved with the liquid grace of a panther. Anaya a heartbeat behind, her presence a whisper of steel and shadow. Mercenary flashlights, frantic fireflies in the suffocating darkness, sliced across the sweat-slicked ground, revealing nothing but dust motes dancing in their beams. They were phantoms, not just invisible, but unfelt. The air itself seemed to thicken, a palpable dread clinging to the warehouse like a shroud, the stench of diesel and fear stinging their nostrils, the low growl of the distant engine, a predatory purr vibrating through the comms, wasn't sound so much as a physical blow to their gut, a visceral reminder of the impending slaughter. Anaya's breath hitched, a flicker of doubt barely contained, a ghost of vulnerability in her usually unflappable demeanor. Silvah, her face a mask of lethal calm, felt the tremor in her partner, the subtle shift in their unspoken bond. This wasn't just a mission. It was a gamble with their very souls. The stakes, they knew, were far higher than just survival. Reinforcements, Anaya whispered. Silvah's jaw tightened. Possibly. Let's finish this before they arrive. The dockyard battle. The raid begins. The warehouse door shrieked, a metallic groan of rusty protest, as Silvah and Anaya, adrenaline a raw thrum in their veins, kicked it inward. The air inside hit them, a thick, cloying stench of mildew, dust, and something metallic, faintly coppery. Flickering sodium lights cast long skeletal shadows across a labyrinth of haphazardly stacked crates, each a silent monument to the tiger's insidious empire. The tiger emblem, a snarling beast rendered in stark black paint, branded each crate with a chilling familiarity. This wasn't just a warehouse, it was a tomb of secrets, a mausoleum of meticulously planned death. Silvah's hand tightened on his weapon. The cold steel, a stark contrast to the sweat beading on his brow. Anaya, her eyes narrowed, scanned the oppressive gloom, the echo of her own ragged breath, a stark sound in the suffocating silence. The air itself seemed to vibrate with the unspoken tension, the knowledge that they were trespassers in a den of vipers, a place where the shadow of Arjun Raikar, the tiger, the man she may or may not be related to, fell long and heavy. The tiger, they knew, was a phantom, a master of disguise, a ghost in tailored suits by day, a predator in shadows by night. His elegant facade, the public face of a Mumbai philanthropist, a pillar of society who was a lie meticulously crafted. The tailored suits concealed a body honed to lethal perfection. A body that moved with the fluid grace of a panther, a body capable of both ruthless efficiency and surprising, devastating strength. His dark, piercing eyes, the eyes that had seen too much, too soon, held the chilling intelligence of a strategic genius, the cold calculation of a man who saw life as a chessboard and people as pawns. But what lay beneath that icy exterior? What drove the orphaned boy from the Mumbai slums to become this ruthless phantom? What kind of man, what kind of brother could he possibly be? The question clawed at Anaya, a visceral ache in her chest, a chilling dissonance between the public face of Arjun Raikar and the brutal reality of the tiger, the weight of her possible connection to this man, this monster, this brother threatened to suffocate her. She had to know the truth, but the closer she got, the more terrifying the answers became. The scent of fear hung heavy in the air, mixing with the metallic tang of blood, a dark perfume of impending violence. The game had begun. "We've got confirmation," Anaya murmured, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the room. "These are the explosives." A piercing scream, a banshee's lament, shattered the nocturnal stillness, its agonizing sound eclipsing the ocean's subtle, menacing susurrus. Before he could react, the dockyard exploded. Not just sound, but a searing white glare that scorched his retinas. The sudden, brutal illumination of floodlights turning the grimy concrete into a butcher's slab. The air thick with the coppery tang of blood before it was spilled, filled with the deafening, staccato crack, crack, crack of automatic weapons fire. Mercenaries, a tide of black-clad fury, surged from the shadows, their faces grim, savage. This wasn't a fight. It was an execution. Silvah, a ghost, forged in the fires of 1,000 desperate battles, moved. His muscles honed to lethal perfection, a symphony of controlled violence, closed the gap between him and a knife-wielding brute. The mercenary's panicked breath, hot and sour on Silvah's cheek, was a fleeting distraction before a bone-jarring wrist lock, the sickening pop of dislocated joints, silenced him. The man, a rag doll in Silvah's grasp, became a shield, his body absorbing the hail of bullets, a grim testament to Silvah's cold calculation. Then a swift, brutal strike, a precise, lethal tap to the carotid artery, and the mercenary crumpled, the life draining from his eyes. Fox, a whirlwind of controlled aggression, anticipated the next threat with chilling accuracy. The crowbar-wielding mercenary charged, a snarl twisting his features. But Fox was a phantom, a blur of motion, a devastating spinning heel kick that smashed into the brute's chest, sending him flying into a precarious stack of crates. The resulting avalanche of wood and metal was a deafening roar, the impact shaking the very ground beneath their feet. Fox didn't flinch. The scent of splintering wood and pulverized concrete mingled with the metallic reek of blood and the acrid bite of cordite, the perfume of war. The fight was far from over. This was only the beginning. Anaya, meanwhile, had taken cover behind a forklift. Her movements were calculated, her shots precise. A single bullet shattered the light fixture above an advancing enemy, plunging his path into darkness. She seized the opportunity, knocking over a stack of barrels to block his escape, before neutralizing him with a clean headshot. As the enemy's body hit the ground, the team's adrenaline was pumping, ready for the next wave of attackers. The chaos and destruction surrounding them were almost surreal. But they had trained for this moment and were prepared to fight until the end. Agent Zara Khan and Agent Cole's assistance was crucial in this battle. Zara, positioned outside with the drone, provided live updates and directed the team's movements. Her sharp eyes scanned the area, analyzing the enemy's movements and relaying information to the team. Meanwhile, Cole's expertise in explosives came in handy, as he set up strategic traps and detonated them at the perfect time. Together, they worked seamlessly, their communication and coordination a testament to their training and experience. The fight was far from over. This was only the beginning. The enemy was relentless, and the team knew they were in for a long and grueling battle. But they were determined to hold their ground and protect their territory. The scent of splintering wood and pulverized concrete mingled with the metallic reek of blood, and the acrid bite of cordite filled the air. But the team barely noticed. They were in their element, fully focused on the mission at hand. The impact of their actions was shaking the very ground beneath their feet. But Fox and his team didn't flinch. They were ready for whatever came their way. Silvah and Anaya quickly shifted their positions, taking down the remaining enemies with precision and ease. The smell of cordite filled the air, but the team barely noticed. They were in their element, fully focused on the mission at hand. The impact of their actions was shaking the very ground beneath their feet. But Fox and his team didn't flinch. They were ready for whatever came their way. The team's training and experience kicked into high gear as they continued to push forward, determined to complete their objective. They moved as a well-oiled machine, each member relying on the other to cover their backs and provide support. As they made their way towards the main building, the sound of gunfire and explosions filled the air. But the team remained unfazed, their minds solely focused on the task at hand. Despite the chaos and danger surrounding them, Fox and his team were calm and collected. They knew that their success on this mission was crucial, and they were willing to do whatever it takes to complete it. The team's unwavering courage and determination were evident as they continued to move forward, facing every obstacle with unwavering resolve. Together, they were a force to be reckoned with, and nothing could stop them from achieving their goal. Silvah, 2 more on your left. Anaya, you've got 1 moving west. Watch your 6. At the dock's edge, Cole unleashed a torrent of suppressing fire from a mounted heavy machine gun. The mercenaries advancing from the water were forced to retreat, their attempts to flank the team thwarted by Cole's relentless barrage. "Got you covered," Cole shouted into the comms, his voice laced with adrenaline. Anaya's shocking discovery and the explosive ambush. Silvah and Anaya quickly shifted their positions, taking down the remaining enemies with precision and ease. The smell of cordite filled the air, but the team barely noticed. They were in their element, fully focused on the mission at hand. The impact of their actions was shaking the very ground beneath their feet. But Fox and his team didn't flinch. They were ready for whatever came their way. The team's training and experience kicked into high gear as they continued to push forward, determined to complete their objective. They moved as a well-oiled machine, each member relying on the other to cover their backs and provide support. As they made their way towards the main building, the sound of gunfire and explosions filled the air. But the team remained unfazed, their minds solely focused on the task at hand. Despite the chaos and danger surrounding them, Fox and his team were calm and collected. They knew that their success on this mission was crucial, and they were willing to do whatever it takes to complete it. The team's unwavering courage and determination were evident as they continued to move forward, facing every obstacle with unwavering resolve. Together, they were a force to be reckoned with, and nothing could stop them from achieving their goal. Anaya spots Rohan. Amidst the chaos, Anaya's world seemed to slow. Her focus shifted as her gaze caught sight of a familiar figure. Rohan, her brother, standing among the mercenaries. He was clad in tactical gear, the tiger emblem emblazoned on his arm. Their eyes met across the battlefield, and for a moment, everything else faded away. "Rohan," Anaya's voice trembled, barely audible over the gunfire. Rohan hesitated, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. But before Anaya could move toward him, an explosion erupted nearby, forcing them both to dive for cover. When the smoke cleared, Rohan was gone, swallowed by the shadows. The ambush. A mercenary's voice echoed through the warehouse. "Blow it!" The ground shook as a series of explosions tore through the warehouse. Crates of explosives ignited, sending plumes of fire and debris into the air. "It's a trap," Silvah yelled into the comms. "Everyone fall back." A roaring inferno consumed the building, its skeletal frame groaning under the strain, the earth trembling beneath their pounding boots. The team wasn't sprinting, they were fleeing. A desperate, panicked scramble for survival as the world around them imploded. Flames, a malevolent dance of orange and crimson, snaked at their heels. The heat, a searing brand on their skin. each breath a gasp of smoke, thick and choking with the stench of burning plastic and something sickeningly sweet, like caramelized flesh. Silvah, his face grim, a mask of controlled terror, didn't just grab Zara, he yanked her. A desperate, brutal tug that ripped the breath from her lungs. The air screamed with the crack of snapping timbers, the hiss of collapsing metal, the roar of the blaze, a symphony of destruction that echoed the chaos in their hearts. Zara, her own fear, a white-hot terror, battling against a stubborn defiance she wasn't sure she possessed, felt the raw power in Silvah's grip, a lifeline in the heart of the apocalypse. They were more than just teammates. They were survivors, forged in the crucible of this devastating fire, their destinies bound by the desperate race against oblivion. "Keep moving," he barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. The heat was intense, the flames engulfing the warehouse on all sides. Smoke filled the air, stinging their eyes and filling their lungs. Silvah gritted his teeth, trying to ignore the pain in his arms, his fingers raw from the heat of his weapon. This was it, the final battle in their fight against the apocalypse. He glanced back at his teammates, their eyes filled with determination, their weapons at the ready. "Keep moving," Silvah barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. The team nodded, knowing they couldn't stop now. They had come too far, fought too hard, to let it all go to waste. Cole, covering their retreat, narrowly avoided a sniper's bullet as he returned fire, suppressing the remaining mercenaries. The team burst out of the warehouse just as the final explosion ripped through the building, sending a shockwave that knocked them to the ground. The chilling revelation, breathing heavily, the team regrouped behind a shipping container. Anaya leaned against the cold metal, her face pale and her hands trembling. "Did we do it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Silvah nodded, his heart heavy with the weight of their victory. They had made it out alive, but at what cost? The world was still in ruins, and they were just a small group of survivors fighting to stay alive in a world that had turned against them. But they were more than just teammates now. They were a family, forged in the crucible of this devastating fire. Their destinies were bound by the desperate race against oblivion, and they would keep moving, no matter what. "He was there," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "My brother was there." Silvah, his expression grim, examined a piece of shrapnel that bore the tiger's emblem. He held it up, his voice steady, but filled with resolve. This wasn't about the explosives. This was a message, Anaya's doubt. The safe house was a paradox, a sanctuary and a prison intertwined. Its cracked walls, cloaked in faded paint, bore the weight of time, while the mismatched, dusty furniture seemed to echo its neglect. Tucked away on the industrial outskirts of Mumbai, it was a forgotten apartment buried in the shadows of a decaying building. The silence within was deafening, broken only by the creak of floorboards, the scurry of unseen rodents, and the occasional whistle of wind slipping through shattered windows. It was a refuge for the lost, yet a cage for its inhabitants, offering no escape from its bleak and desolate existence. The air inside was thick, carrying a distinct blend of scents. Dampness from the walls, mingling with the acrid tang of industrial pollution seeping in from outside. The musty odor clung to everything, embedding itself into the worn furniture and settling into every crack and crevice. It was both comforting and oppressive, a constant reminder of the safe house's duality. The sanctuary it offered was tainted by the suffocating sense of confinement, a bittersweet solace for those who sought its shelter. The apartment felt trapped in time, as if it had absorbed the loneliness of the crumbling building that surrounded it. The sparse furnishings amplified the eerie stillness, with only the faint rustle of disturbed dust breaking the monotony. The cracked walls seemed to hum with the emptiness, a silent witness to years of abandonment. Despite its flaws, the safe house provided a peculiar sense of familiarity, a fragile haven amidst its haunting isolation. It stood as a paradox in the heart of desolation, a place where safety and entrapment coexisted, inseparable and eternal. A single fluorescent light buzzed above the kitchen table, casting a pale, sickly glow that barely reached the shadowed corners of the room, where cobwebs clung stubbornly to the ceiling. The faint hum of the light mixed with the occasional creak of the old wooden floorboards, creating an eerie symphony in the otherwise silent space. Silvah Foxx sat at the table, his posture rigid, his sharp eyes fixed on the task before him. His movements were deliberate, almost ritualistic, as he cleaned his pistol, the dark metal gleaming under the weak light, the rhythmic motions of the cloth gliding over the cold steel, provided a sharp contrast to the suffocating tension in the air. Nearby, empty coffee cups sat forgotten, its rim stained with the remnants of a sleepless night. Anaya Sharma is a formidable presence, with an athletic, toned body and sharp, angular features. Her deep brown eyes exude both captivation and intensity, while her confident demeanor demands attention. She is a master of control and almost but struggles with both beauty and desire. Anaya's beauty and intelligence are matched only by her dangerous nature. She exudes confidence and authority, but guards her vulnerability as well. Her playful banter with Silvah Foxx adds layers to their dynamic, but she knows relationships in their world are often fleeting. Anaya's inner conflict adds depth to her character. In the room next door, Anaya sat in silence, her eyes trained on the door as she listened intently. The hum of the city outside seemed to amplify the tension in the room. She shifted in her seat, feeling restless as she waited for the agents to return with new information. She had always been a woman of action, someone who preferred to be in the thick of things rather than waiting on the sidelines. But for now, she had to remain patient. Finally, Agent Khan and Agent emerged from the adjoining room. Their voices low as they discussed their findings. Anaya's attention was immediately captured by their hushed conversation. She was always eager to learn more, to dive deeper into the mission at hand. But she knew all too well the dangers that lurked in their line of work. Relationships were often fleeting and doomed, and she guarded her vulnerabilities closely. The playful banter she shared with Silvah Foxx was just a facade, a way to mask her inner conflict and maintain her confident and authoritative facade. Silvah's voice broke the stillness, low but firm. "You're not here with us right now, Anaya. What's on your mind?" Anaya didn't respond immediately. Her fingers tightened around the windowsill as she stared out at the flickering lights in the distance. "It's nothing," she said finally, her tone brittle. Silvah set his pistol down, his gaze sharp as he looked at her. "Nothing doesn't grip you like that. Spill it." The words hung in the air, and for a moment it seemed like she might brush him off again. Instead, she turned, her posture stiff as she crossed the room to sit across from him. Anaya's confession and emotional vulnerability. Anaya's body language changed as she leaned forward, intertwining her fingers in a gesture of security. She couldn't meet Silvah's eyes, her gaze constantly shifting to the table. Her sight was too powerful. It could reveal her hidden feelings. "Rohan," she began softly, her voice tinged with frustration and sorrow. "He was everything I wanted to be growing up. Smart, brave, fearless. When he joined the Bureau, it felt like he was fulfilling all the dreams I couldn't." She paused, her shoulders trembling as she tried to keep her emotions in check. "When he vanished, it broke something in me. They said he was dead, but I never believed them. Not fully." Her voice faltered, and she looked up, her eyes shimmering. "And now seeing him alive, with them. If he's with the tiger, what does that make him? What does that make me for not stopping him sooner?" Silvah leaned back, his expression unreadable, but not unkind. "Sometimes the shadows swallow the ones we love," he said quietly. and when they do, the answers we want may not be the ones we're ready to hear. His words were calm, but carried the weight of experience. He let the silence linger before continuing. But you can't let it break you. We're here to stop the tiger, not chase ghosts. If Rohan is alive, we'll deal with that when the time comes. Until then, stay focused. Anaya's eyes narrowed as she clenched her fists, her jaw tensing at his words. She gave a slow nod, but the internal struggle was evident in her gaze. Her gaze sharpened as she tightly curled her fingers, her jaw clenching in response to his words. She nodded briefly, but the turmoil in her eyes was still unresolved. A bond forged in trust, Silvah stood and walked to a nearby shelf, retrieving a glass and filling it with water from a plastic bottle. He returned to the table and placed it in front of Anaya. "Here," he said. "Take a minute. You're no good to me rattled." Anaya let out a soft, bitter chuckle as she wiped at her eyes. "You really know how to comfort someone, don't you?" A faint smirk tugged at Silvah's lips. "I'm not here to coddle you. I need a partner, not a liability." Her chuckle turned into a genuine, if brief, laugh. She took the glass and drank, the simple act grounding her. "For what it's worth," she said, setting the glass down. "I trust you. I don't say that lightly." Silvah nodded, his tone sincere. "Good, because trust is all we've got right now." The moment lingered, the tension between them shifting into something unspoken, but strong. Anaya straightened in her chair, her gaze sharpening as it landed on the map pinned to the wall. "Let's end this," she said, her voice firm. "For Rohan, and for everyone else the tiger has taken." Silvah picked up his pistol, holstering it with practiced ease. "Then let's get to work." Foreshadowing the conflict, the scene didn't end with words, but with the weight of determination. Anaya's commanding presence drew the camera's attention as she approached the map, her fingers tracing the intricate web of red threads. Her face was stoic, a mask of determination, yet her eyes revealed the inner conflict that raged within her. As the camera lingered, Anaya's intense gaze followed the red threads, her mind consumed by the weight of her decisions. The turmoil beneath her calm exterior was evident in the subtle flicker of emotion in her eyes. Captured by the camera's lens, Silvah's gaze lingered on her for a moment, taking in her determined stance. His unreadable expression gave nothing away as he turned back to his preparations. The faint sound of the bustling city outside grew louder, a constant reminder of the chaos that awaited them beyond the safe-house walls. The gateway ambush. The Mumbai night sky was a sight to behold, with stars twinkling like almonds on a velvet canvas. The air was alive with a contagious excitement as people gathered to celebrate amidst the city's bustling energy. The Gateway of India, adorned with golden lights, radiated grandeur as the heart of the vibrant cultural festival. The canopy of stars above Mumbai shone bright, illuminating the city with a mesmerizing glow. The electric atmosphere was palpable, as everyone seemed to be caught up in the festive spirit. The majestic Gateway of India, standing tall and proud, was a mesmerizing sight, basking in the golden light and serving as the focal point of the lively event. The rhythmic drums pounded in perfect harmony, sending a pulsing cadence that resonated through the air. Lilting flutes joined the symphony, their melodic tunes weaving seamlessly into the vibrant atmosphere. Traditional dancers, adorned in vivid, swirling costumes, twirled and leaped with precision, their feet tapping against the ground in sync with the music, adding another layer to the dynamic rhythm. The contrasting sounds of the drums and flutes blended beautifully, crafting a rich, vibrant melody that captivated all who listened. Every movement of the dancers mirrored the music, each twirl and jump accentuated by the drum beats, creating a mesmerizing harmony of sound and motion. The dancers, radiant in their colorful attire, spun gracefully to the resonant drum beats and the trill of the flutes. Their costumes shimmered and flowed, amplifying the spectacle of the performance. With movements so fluid and synchronized, they held the audience spellbound, their grace and energy painting a vivid picture of cultural tradition. Every step, every twirl seemed to narrate a tale, breathing life into the heritage of the dance. As the music swelled, the dancers appeared almost weightless, their effortless elegance giving the impression of floating. The stage came alive with the brilliance of their costumes and the sheer magnetism of their performance, leaving the audience entranced by the dazzling display of artistry and tradition. Goods that captivated the eye, the vibrant colors of fabrics, fresh produce, and artisan creations formed a stunning visual symphony, irresistibly pulling in intrigued onlookers. Every stall brimmed with energy as vendors passionately showcased their goods, their voices cutting through the lively hum of customers immersed in animated haggling. Vibrant market scene. The street was lined with rows of vendors, their stalls brimming with goods that spilled over in a vibrant display of color. The vivid hues of their merchandise captivated the eyes, irresistibly drawing in the stream of passers-by. Each stall buzzed with activity, vendors enthusiastically promoting their wares, engaging in animated bargaining with eager customers. The air was rich with tantalizing aromas, a medley of scents that painted a picture of culinary delight. The sizzling grills and bubbling pots released mouth-watering fragrances of street food, while the comforting aroma of freshly baked bread mingled seamlessly with the sweet, juicy scent of ripe fruits. These enticing smells alone were enough to awaken appetites and lure visitors to sample the tempting delicacies. The atmosphere was alive with festivity. Crowds wandered through, pausing to admire the colorful displays and savor delectable snacks. The cheerful calls of vendors blended with the lively chatter of customers, weaving together a symphony of sound that amplified the joyous, bustling energy of the scene. The street had transformed into a vibrant marketplace, a feast for the senses that drew everyone in. Vendors lined the edges, their stalls overflowing with vivid goods and mouth-watering street food. The aroma of sizzling meats and exotic spices filled the air, enticing every passerby with its rich, tantalizing allure. Subtle hints of freshly baked bread and sugary confections added to the sensory symphony, making it even harder to resist. The lively atmosphere buzzed with an irresistible blend of sights and scents, urging visitors to indulge in the tempting array of offerings. The air buzzed with an intoxicating medley of exotic herbs and spices, seamlessly mingling with the sweet perfume of ripe fruits and freshly baked pastries. Each stall radiated its own distinctive aroma, irresistibly pulling in curious passers-by. It was a symphony of scents, diverse yet harmonious, that infused the vibrant energy of the bustling market. The vendors' displays were a feast not only for the eyes, but also for the nose, their fragrances weaving together into an enchanting tapestry. The market thrummed with life, a cacophony of sounds that somehow felt melodic. Vendors called out their deals with animated voices, competing to capture attention, while the sizzle of food on grills punctuated the air. Customers chattered, laughter rang out, and the occasional clinking of coins marked transactions. Along the perimeter, the rhythmic clanging of pots and pans blended with the beat of traditional music, creating a lively backdrop. The rustling of fabrics as shoppers browsed, coupled with the occasional honk of a passing car, added layers to the sensory experience. Every sound, every scent, every sight contributed to the delightful chaos. The vibrant energy of the market enveloped me, drawing me in deeper with every step. The vendors' voices echoed around me, their calls forming a unique melody that lingered in my mind. It was a kaleidoscope of sensations that I couldn't help but be enchanted by, a vivid, unforgettable experience. The air was alive with tantalizing aromas. The sweet, luscious scent of ripe fruits intertwined seamlessly with the warm, inviting fragrance of freshly baked bread, forming an irresistible symphony of smells. Each aroma seemed to tell its own story, drawing visitors toward the tempting array of delicacies on display. A medley of spices and the smoky essence of street food added depth to the atmosphere, creating a sensory experience impossible to resist. The market was a vibrant celebration of sights, sounds, and scents. People wandered through the lively scene, their faces glowing with curiosity and joy as they admired the colorful displays and savored delicious snacks. The vendors' spirited calls intertwined with the murmur of conversations, creating a harmonious soundtrack to the bustling atmosphere. Laughter from children, the clinking of exchanged coins, and the rhythmic pulse of traditional music enriched the dynamic energy of the moment. The rustling of fabrics and the clatter of pots and pans filled the air with a lively commotion. Vendors vied for attention, their voices rising above the bustling crowd, while the occasional honk of a passing car served as a reminder of the urban backdrop. The market was a sensory feast, a vibrant tapestry of colors, aromas, and sounds that mesmerized and captivated. It was an enchanting, unforgettable experience that stayed with me long after I departed. But amidst the joy and revelry, there was a new undercurrent of tension. Silvah Foxx, the lead agent of an elite international spy agency, moved through the crowd with the unerring focus of a predator. His keen eyes scanned the area, assessing potential threats and exits. His tactical attire, subdued yet stylish, allowed him to blend seamlessly among the attendees, avoiding any unwanted attention. Over his earpiece, he kept in constant contact with his team, relaying vital information and coordinating their movements. As he made his way through the bustling market, Silvah's sharp senses picked up on subtle changes in the atmosphere. He could detect the presence of someone watching him, studying his every move, but he remained unfazed, his years of training and experience allowing him to maintain his composure and stay focused. Silvah's team was his top priority, and he would do anything to ensure their safety. With every step, Silvah's mind was in constant motion, analyzing potential threats and strategizing for any scenario. He was the epitome of a leader, calm and collected, with a sharp eye for detail. His presence alone was enough to command respect and instill confidence in his team. Silvah Foxx was a force to be reckoned with, and anyone who dared to cross him would soon realize the consequences of their actions. Silvah Foxx was always the first to spot any potential threat. His calm and collected demeanor, along with his sharp eye for detail, made him a natural leader. His team trusted and respected him, knowing that he would always have their backs. As he scanned the crowded room, his presence alone was enough to command respect and instill confidence in those around him. Agent Zara Khan, one of Silvah's most trusted team members, monitored the event from a nearby balcony. With her keen eyes and quick thinking, she was able to spot 3 suspicious individuals near the east wing of the building. Through her drone feed on her tablet, she was able to gather more information about the suspects, noting their maintenance uniforms and lack of ID tags. Her sharp voice crackled through the comms, alerting Silvah and the rest of the team to the potential threat. Silvah's reputation preceded him, and anyone who dared to cross him would soon realize the consequences of their actions. He was a force to be reckoned with, and his team knew that they could always count on him to lead them through any situation. As they prepared to confront the suspicious individuals, Silvah's calm and collected demeanor never wavered. He knew that with his team by his side, they could handle anything that came their way. "Eyes open," Silvah murmured. "They're here. We just have to find them." On a nearby balcony, Agent Zara Khan monitored the event through the drone feed on her tablet. Her sharp voice crackled through the comms. 3 suspicious individuals near the east wing. Maintenance uniforms, no ID tags. The churning crowd, a restless sea of faces obscured by the monument's oppressive shadow, carried the acrid stench of sweat and fear. Anaya Sharma stood at its base, a lethal silhouette against the stone's unyielding surface, the gritty texture beneath her polished combat boots grounding her in the moment. Her 5'7" frame, sculpted for precision and lethality, was encased in midnight black tactical gear that clung like a second skin, whispering of concealed weapons and silent efficiency. Her shoulder-length black hair, typically a sleek veil framing her sharp features, was ruthlessly pulled back, exposing the high, angular planes of her cheekbones. Her deep brown eyes, once capable of playful warmth, now burned cold and unyielding, scanning the crowd with the keen focus of a predator sizing up its prey. The faint metallic tang of blood lingered in the air, a ghostly remnant of past battles that sharpened her instincts to a razor's edge. Her gloved hand hovered near the cold steel strapped to her thigh, tightening with a subtle, deliberate motion. The crowd pulsed with a low thrum of anxiety, a collective unease that Anaya could taste on her tongue, bitter, metallic, and electric. Her voice, a measured purr edged with steel, sliced through the mounting noise. "Silvah," she murmured, the name carrying a dangerous intimacy, a challenge that hung in the charged air like a storm cloud ready to break. The sharp scent of ozone crackled around her, a harbinger of the violence poised to erupt. The weight of haute-air duty pressed heavily on her shoulders, an invisible shroud that smothered any fleeting dreams of a life beyond the shadows, a life where vulnerability could exist. But there was no room for such indulgence. The game had begun. Her gaze locked onto her target, her voice steady and precise. "I see them. Maintenance cart by the arches. That's where the explosives will be." Silvah's eyes tracked a man lingering too long near the sound system setup. His jacket bulged unnaturally, concealing a weapon or worse. "I've got one. West Tower. Moving in." Silvah's approach was graceful and fluid, his steps deliberate as he closed the distance between them. With a practiced ease, he swiftly grabbed the mercenary's arm, his grip tight like a vice. His voice was a low growl, commanding and authoritative. The intensity in his gaze was undeniable, a fierce determination that could be seen in his eyes. "Drop it! Now!" The mercenary's smug expression sent a chill down Silvah's spine. His eyes held a defiant glint as he brandished a detonator, daring anyone to stop him. Silvah's response was swift and calculated. He disarmed the man with a brutal twist and flung him into the sound system. The detonator hit the ground with a clatter, but the mercenary's smirk remained, a silent challenge to Silvah's authority. Anaya's voice, a raw, serrated edge slicing through the static-choked comms, ripped through them all. The metallic tang of blood, a phantom taste, filled their mouths as her words slammed into their minds, a physical blow. "They're moving, every fiber of your being. High alert. Now!" The air itself seemed to crackle with unseen energy, a palpable dread seeping into their bones. The scent of ozone sharp in their nostrils, mirroring the lethal urgency in her voice. This wasn't a drill. This was the cold, hard hand of death, reaching for them from the shadows. The firefight erupts. The festival's saccharine sweetness exploded in a cacophony of death. A deafening crack, the gunshot ripped through the air, a prelude to the staccato shriek of an automatic weapon. The smell of a cordite, acrid and metallic, instantly choked the sweetness of roasted nuts and spun sugar. Near the towering monument, a figure, a mercenary, his face a mask of cold calculation. Beneath a sweat-slicked mercenary helmet, unleashed a hail of bullets into the sky, a deliberate act of terror. The meticulously crafted illusion of joy shattered. Screams, raw and primal, tore through the night. A chorus of pure, unadulterated fear. The crowd, a swirling mass of panicked humanity, surged like a tidal wave, overturning flimsy vendor stalls, crushing elaborate decorations under a tide of frantic limbs. The taste of blood, Silvah's own, he realized with a grim certainty, mingled with the dust kicked up by the stampede. He hurled himself behind a splintering table, the wood groaning under the impact of his weight. Bullets ricocheted. Thwack, ping, zip. A terrifying symphony of metal against wood and flesh. His comms crackled, his voice, usually a low rumble, now a strained rasp cutting through the chaos. "Secure the perimeter. Evacuate the VIPs. Now!" His eyes, narrowed slits of icy determination, scanned the carnage, searching for the source of the attack. A predator hidden amongst the terrified prey. The weight of lives, the responsibility for their survival pressed down on him, a crushing burden he would bear to the bitter end. Contain the chaos. Anaya, find the explosives. Agent Cole, positioned on a nearby rooftop, unleashed a precise volley of cover fire, taking out 2 advancing mercenaries. His voice was confident but urgent. "I've got your 6, boss. Keep moving." Silvah's close quarters combat. Silvah's unwavering focus cut through the chaos as he navigated the frenzied scene. The camera track ked his every move, highlighting his fluid, lethal precision. Each strike was deliberate, efficient, and devastating. With a seamless sidestep, he avoided a charging mercenary and countered with a spinning elbow strike that landed with bone-crunching force. His path to the monument became a showcase of calculated ferocity. The chaos intensified as a mercenary lunged at Silvah, wielding a crowbar. Silvah dodged effortlessly, retaliating with a crushing as pinning elbow to the attacker's jaw, sending him crumpling to the ground. Another assailant, armed with a knife, closed in swiftly. Silvah's movements remained flawless, fluid and deadly. He twisted the knife wielder's wrist with a sickening crack, disarming him, and in one seamless motion, turned the weapon on a third enemy who lunged from behind. The camera captured every brutal moment, the sound of breaking bones echoing through the fray. Silvah's focused determination burned bright as he carved a relentless path toward the monument. Sweat stung Anaya's eyes, the metallic tang of blood mingling with the cloying sweetness of the nearby jasmine. Her heart hammered a frantic tattoo against her ribs, a counterpoint to the deafening roar of the panicked crowd. A tide of terrified faces and flailing limbs threatening to sweep her away. But she was a predator in this maelstrom, her instincts honed to a razor's edge. The polished steel of her combat knife felt cool and reassuring against her palm, its weight a familiar comfort in the suffocating chaos. The Eastern Arch, a cruel mockery of classical elegance amidst the carnage, pulsed in her vision. Beneath a riot of crimson roses, almost obscenely vibrant against the encroaching shadows, it lurked. The first bomb. Not just a bomb, a masterpiece of insidious engineering. Years of covert operations, of whispers in smoke-filled rooms and blood-soaked alleyways had prepared her for this. This dance with death. Dropping to her knees, the rough cobblestones biting into her calloused hands, she inhaled the sharp, acrid scent of explosives, a perfume of imminent annihilation. Her fingers, nimble and precise, traced the elegant lines of the device. The cool metal, a stark contrast to the feverish pulse in her temples. Each intricate component whispered of a meticulous mind, a twisted genius who reveled in destruction. The timer, a miniature clockwork marvel ticking down her remaining seconds, mocked her with its cold, indifferent precision. One wrong move, one misstep, and oblivion. But Anaya wouldn't falter. She wouldn't let him win. Not today. Above the din, Anaya's sharp, incisive voice penetrated the communications channel, a command that resonated with chilling clarity. One device, triple redundancies. I need time. The metallic tang of blood filled her nostrils, a grim counterpoint to the acrid bite of cordite hanging heavy in the air. Zara's response, cool as glacial ice, scraped against her nerves. Green wire first, then the secondary, underneath. The unspoken threat of catastrophic failure, a palpable weight between them. Sweat, slick and cold, stung Anaya's eyes. The frantic drumming of her own heart thundered in her ears, a deafening roar that threatened to drown out the symphony of death swirling around her. Screams, raw, animalistic, clawed at the edges of her awareness. The stench of burning flesh mingled with the metallic tang of blood, painting a visceral landscape of carnage. Yet her fingers, steady as a surgeon's, danced across the intricate wiring. Each clipped wire felt like a gamble with fate, a dance with the devil himself. The pressure, a physical entity, pressed down on her, threatening to crush her. She was a lone island of calm, amidst a maelstrom of violence, a warrior battling not only a deadly device, but the very essence of chaos itself. Anaya confronts Rohan. The siblings were locked in a dance with the devil himself, each torn between their duty to their respective sides and their love for one another. Anaya felt the weight of the pressure, a physical entity that seemed to press down on her, threatening to crush her. But she stood tall, a lone island of calm amidst a maelstrom of violence. As Rohan raised his weapon, Anaya's heart ached with conflict. She knew she had to confront her brother, to stop him from unleashing the deadly device he held in his hands. But at the same time, she couldn't bear the thought of harming him, the very essence of chaos itself. Despite the danger, Anaya refused to back down, for she was not just a warrior battling her brother, but also fighting against the forces tearing their family apart. The tension between them was palpable as they faced each other, both fiercely determined to fulfill their duties. Anaya could see the turmoil in Rohan's eyes, and for a moment she saw the brother she once knew. But then, just as quickly, the cold, ruthless soldier took over. With a heavy heart, Anaya knew that their confrontation would only end in bloodshed, and she could only hope that their bond as siblings would be strong enough to survive it. "You shouldn't have come here," Rohan said, his voice low and chillingly calm. "You have no idea what you're up against." Anaya rose unsteadily, her hands trembling as she leveled her weapon. "Rohan, it's me. Why are you doing this? Why are you with him?" Rohan's gaze remained cold, unflinching. "Sometimes survival means choosing the winning side. Go home, Anaya. This fight isn't yours anymore." Her voice cracked, her aim wavering. "This isn't you. I know it's not. It can't be." Before she could say more, Silvah emerged from the shadows behind her, his presence commanding and unyielding. His voice was sharp, cutting through the tension like a blade. "Drop it! Now!" Rohan's lips twisted into a smirk as he stepped back, tossing a smoke grenade. It detonated with a sharp hiss, flooding the area with dense, blinding smoke. Chaos erupted as gunfire shattered the silence. Silvah grabbed Anaya's arm, yanking her toward cover. His tone was firm, steady, yet edged with urgency. "That's not your brother anymore. Don't let his shadow dim your light." Anaya wiped away her tears, her breath steadying as her resolve solidified. She nodded, gripping her weapon tighter. "Let's finish this." Returning to the device, Anaya worked with renewed determination. Under Zara's steady guidance, she disarmed the bomb just as the timer ticked down to its final moments. The final showdown. As Anaya neutralized the last explosive, Silvah and Cole launched a coordinated assault, swiftly and precisely taking down the remaining mercenaries. Their movements were seamless, a testament to their training and trust in one another. The festival grounds, once alive with joy and celebration, now lay in shambles, strewn with debris and filled with the cries of the injured. The camera swept across the devastation, capturing the eerie glow of emergency lights and the mournful wail of distant sirens. Closing scene. Amidst the wreckage, Anaya stood, her face a blend of determination and grief. Her voice, barely above a whisper, carried her resolve. "Rohan, I'll bring you back, no matter what." Silvah stepped beside her, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. His eyes, fixed on the horizon, reflected both resolve and the weight of what lay ahead. This isn't over. The final shot lingered on the gateway of India, its proud arches rising above the destruction, a silent testament to resilience and a harbinger of the battles yet to come. The final confrontation. Silvah's keen eyes swept over the bustling crowds below, meticulously searching for any hint of suspicious activity. As the lead operative of an elite international spy agency, high-stakes missions like this were second nature to him. His early 40s had been a whirlwind of perilous operations, each more complex and dangerous than the last. Yet Silvah thrived under pressure, his razor-sharp skills and finely tuned instincts cementing his reputation as one of the most formidable agents in the field. Reaching the summit of the gateway, Silvah paused, his gaze shifting between the chaotic streets below and the serene arches surrounding him. The contrast was striking, a vivid reminder of the immense responsibility resting on his shoulders. But challenges like these were where he excelled. His unshakable determination and composed demeanor made him a natural leader, one his team trusted implicitly. With a subtle nod, Silvah signaled his team to advance. Descending the spiral staircase, he felt the familiar surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins. This was his element, moments of danger and uncertainty, where his expertise and quick thinking were pushed to their limits. And with Silvah Foxx leading the way, no mission was ever out of reach. The wind, a razor's edge against his skin, whipped at Silvah's cloak as he stood on the gateway's precipice. Below, the city throbbed, a fetid, chaotic symphony of screams, the clang of steel, and the stench of burning flesh rising like a miasma. The ancient stone arches, cool and smooth beneath his calloused fingers, offered a stark, almost obscene contrast to the inferno raging in the streets. This wasn't just a juxtaposition. It was a festering wound, a raw display of the brutal power he wielded. The weight of it pressed down, a physical burden that sunk its claws into his very bones, a constant gnawing reminder of the blood on his hands, the lives forever altered by his decisions. But the burden didn't break him, it forged him. Silvah, scarred and weary, a ghost in the flickering torchlight, felt the familiar icy calm settle in his soul. His gaze, sharp as shattered glass, swept over the carnage below. Years of battles, of betrayals, of agonizing choices had etched themselves into his face, a roadmap of a life lived on the edge of a knife. He was a predator, yes, but one haunted by the echoes of his prey. He was a king, but his crown was fashioned from the bones of his enemies, a constant, chilling reminder of the price of power. He would face this maelstrom of violence and despair, not with blind bravado, but with the cold, calculated precision of a surgeon wielding a scalpel. He would rise. He always rose. A barely perceptible flick of Silvah Foxx's wrist, a silent command to his team. The heavy oak of the spiral staircase groaned beneath his weight, each descending step a measured beat against the frantic drum of his own heart. Adrenaline, raw and potent, flooded his system, a volatile cocktail of lethal anticipation and steely resolve. The air, thick with the scent of aged stone and something faintly metallic, prickled his nostrils. This wasn't just danger, it was a symphony of it, a deadly ballet played out in shadows and whispered threats. This was where he thrived. This was his domain. His silver hair, gleaming faintly in the dim light, felt cool against his scalp. He could taste the metallic tang of blood, phantom memories of past missions, though none had been spilled this night, not yet. The weight of his custom-tailored suit, usually a symbol of effortless elegance, felt like a second skin, a necessary armor against the coming storm. At 40-odd, Silvah Foxx, lead agent of the agency, was a predator in human form. His deep brown eyes, usually guarded, flickered with a dangerous light, absorbing the subtle shifts in the environment, anticipating every move. No mission was too audacious, no adversary too formidable for Silvah. He was the apex predator, an instrument of controlled chaos, a whisper of death in a silk suit. His sharp mind, a honed blade, sliced through complexities, leaving only the clean lines of strategy. His body, a testament to years of rigorous training, was a finely tuned machine, ready to unleash a storm of controlled violence. The faint tremor in his hand, barely noticeable beneath the polished surface of his composure, betrayed the intensity churning beneath. His charm, a weapon as lethal as any firearm, remained a carefully stored asset, to be deployed only when absolutely necessary. Loyalty to his team, a deep, unspoken bond, was the unyielding steel in his spine. Tonight, the stakes were higher than ever. Tonight, the dance with death began. The worn steps groaned a mournful dirge under Silvah's tactical boots, each footfall a hammer blow against the ancient stone. His breath, a ragged whisper in the night, hitched in his chest. The weapon, cold steel of familiar weight against his thigh, felt an extension of his own lethal intent. His mind, a battlefield of calculated risks and grim possibilities, mapped the ascent. Reaching the halfway platform, a sliver of moon bleached the grim scene. The city sprawled below, a glittering abyss, but Silvah saw nothing but him. He felt the tiger before he saw him, a chilling pressure, a predator's aura thick enough to taste, metallic and sharp on his tongue. Then the silhouette, a dark god against the city's incandescent glow. Arjun Raikar, or whatever alias the chameleon chose tonight. The tiger, motionless, a statue carved from shadow and lethal grace. 5'10" of controlled menace, a coiled spring poised to unleash devastation. The faintest scent of expensive cologne, a jarring incongruity against the grim reality of their impending confrontation, reached Silvah's nostrils. He knew the fragrance, a bespoke blend only available to the Mumbai elite, a detail that only heightened the insidious nature of this man, this monster. The tiger stood at the precipice, a king surveying his domain. His dark eyes, twin chips of obsidian, seemed to bore into Silvah's soul. Years of calculated ruthlessness etched themselves into his angular features, a map of hidden depths and brutal efficiency. The tailored suits, the immaculate appearance, the philanthropic facade were a million miles away. This was the raw, untamed beast, the master assassin, the strategic genius, the billionaire who played a deadly game with nations. This was the brother Anaya never knew, the brother who was a ghost haunting her life, a cold echo of a past she couldn't comprehend. A tremor of fear, raw and visceral, snaked through Silvah. But beneath that fear burned a colder fire, the burning certainty of revenge. The game was on. The tiger, Arjun Raikar to the world, a name as polished as his bespoke suit, turned. The slow, deliberate movement, Audiobook as a predator's grace, a stark contrast to the frantic pulse hammering in Silvah's chest. Half his face was masked by a shadow, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked beneath the veneer of Mumbai's most celebrated philanthropist. The scent of expensive cologne, sharp citrus battling a faint undercurrent of ozone, the metallic tang of blood hung heavy in the air. Persistent, the tiger purred, his voice a silken whisper laced with contempt. A venomous serpent coiled in the shadows. Foolish even. Persistence is a child's game, Silvah. I play chess, not checkers. His dark eyes, glittering pools of obsidian, bored into Silvah, assessing, calculating. The air crackled with unspoken threats. The weight of his gaze was a physical blow. Silvah, a granite statue against the opulent backdrop of Rikar's penthouse, met the challenge head-on. His own voice, though calm, vibrated with steely resolve. "The game is over, Arjun. Your reign of terror ends tonight." The words hung in the suffocating silence, sharp as shards of glass. The taste of defiance filled Silvah's mouth, a bitter counterpoint to the metallic tang of fear clawing at his throat. A slow, predatory smile stretched across the tiger's lips, a cruel slash against his meticulously crafted facade. The silk of his tie felt slick against his throat as he casually reached for his belt. The glint of polished steel, a bespoke knife, the cold bite of its edge momentarily visible, sent a shiver down Silvah's spine. The air thickened with the anticipation of violence, a palpable tension that pressed down like a physical weight. "Ends." The tiger's voice was a low growl now, devoid of amusement. He tossed the smoke grenade, the hissing shriek ripping through the quiet elegance of the room, a chaotic intrusion into the perfectly orchestrated scene. "Let's see if your theory survives the smoke, Silvah. Let's see if your persistence can withstand, me." The grenade exploded, swallowing the room in a choking cloud, the acrid smell stinging Silvah's eyes, a final brutal prelude to the fight. The faint, underlying scent of ozone intensified, a metallic perfume announcing the impending bloodshed. With a sharp hiss, the grenade exploded, shrouding the platform in a thick, acrid fog. Silvah coughed, his eyes stinging. He'd known the risks, but the blast still caught him off guard, a visceral reminder of his own mortality. He darted forward instinctively, but the smoke, thick as a shroud, blurred his vision. A shot rang out, the bullet whistling past his ear, a chilling whisper of failure. The tiger, Arjun, the name clawed at his conscience, had vanished into the shadows of the upper levels. The pursuit felt less like a chase and more like a relentless erosion of Silvah's resolve. Each echoing footstep in the labyrinthine corridors felt like a hammer blow against his already fractured moral compass. He'd been chasing Arjun for months, fueled by a burning need for justice, for revenge. But the closer he got, the more the carefully constructed case against the industrialist crumbled. Bloody handprints on a railing, a theatrical flourish, perhaps. The faint scuff marks on the floor, suspiciously precise, felt staged. A breadcrumb trail designed to lead him astray. Reaching a small balcony, Silvah saw Arjun, a fleeting glimpse of tailored fabric disappearing into another stairwell. He hesitated, a cold dread creeping into his heart. Following Arjun wasn't just about justice anymore. It was about confirming a horrifying suspicion gnawing at his soul. The evidence, circumstantial at best, whispered of a connection far deeper, far more personal than he could bear. He knew the rumors, whispers of Arjun's orphanage past, of a missing child. A child remarkably similar to Anaya, his younger sister. Could the ruthless killer, the master manipulator, be her long-lost brother? The thought twisted a knife in his gut. Silvah's training kicked in, overriding the icy grip of doubt. He followed Arjun, his movements mechanically precise, but his mind was a battlefield. He pushed aside the sickening realization that his pursuit might lead him to a truth far more devastating than any conviction. The weight of his possible failure pressed down on him. The weight of potentially destroying his sister's world in the pursuit of justice. He reached the next level, finding Arjun confronting a group of men, his movements a deadly ballet of calculated grace. Silvah knew he had a chance to take him down, but to do so meant risking collateral damage. A terrible choice presented itself. Let Arjun escape, preserving the fragile facade of his sister's life, or take the shot, sacrificing her peace for the promise of justice. Silvah's hands trembled. His loyalty to the law warred with his loyalty to his family. He chose the path that felt like a betrayal of everything he stood for. his decision a heavy stone sinking into the pit of his stomach. A bad choice, one he knew he would regret. He let Arjun escape, the weight of his inaction a far heavier burden than any confrontation could have ever been. Zara Khan's voice, a razor's edge of static, sliced through Silva's earpiece. Fox, we're hemorrhaging control. The crowd's a maelstrom, a churning sea of panicked faces, and Anaya. We've lost her. Ghost. Status. The words hung, heavy and suffocating, in the humid Mumbai night air, thick with the scent of sweat, fear, and something metallic, coppery, blood. Silva's reply was a low growl, a venomous whisper against the rising cacophony. I have eyes on him, the tiger. Perimeters locked down. No one breathes without my say-so. This ends now. His heart hammered a brutal rhythm against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the backdrop of the unfolding chaos. He could almost taste the iron tang of impending violence. The tiger, Arjun Raikar to the oblivious world, stood poised on the precipice of a meticulously orchestrated massacre. The city's glittering skyline, a jagged masterpiece of steel and glass, was reflected in his cold, obsidian eyes. His tailored suit, a second skin of impeccable silk, felt as constricting as a straitjacket. The expensive watch, a subtle glint of power on his wrist, felt mockingly irrelevant against the brutal efficiency of the operation. Concealed beneath the immaculate facade, his tactical gear pulsed with the thrum of lethal technology. He inhaled deeply. The scent of ozone and fear was intoxicating. He was a master of the game, a predator in human skin. But this time, the scent of something akin to family, a phantom, a ghost from a past he'd ruthlessly buried, snaked its way through his carefully constructed world. Anaya. The name was a discordant note in the symphony of his meticulously planned destruction. A sliver of doubt, a crack in his impenetrable armor, threatened to shatter his control. Was she truly a pawn, or could she possibly be related? The mere possibility tasted like ash in his mouth. A past he had meticulously erased now threatened to consume him. He moved with a lethal grace, a silent panther amid the fray. His presence a chilling wave washing over the panicked crowd. His slender frame belied the terrifying strength coiled within, a coiled spring waiting to unleash years of owned lethality. The weight of his secrets, of his double life, of the blood-soaked path he'd carved, pressed down on him with an almost physical force. Tonight, the game would decide more than just the fate of his enemies. It would decide his fate, and perhaps the fate of a family he never knew. The showdown, Silva vs. the tiger. The wind, a razor's edge, sliced across Silva's face as he stepped onto the gateway's precipice. Below, the Arabian Sea roared, a monstrous, hungry beast gnawing at the foundations of the city. Above, a million diamond splinters, stars, pricked the inky blackness. The salt spray stung his eyes, mirroring the bitter taste in his mouth. At the platform's edge, a silhouette detached itself from the night. Arjun Raikar, the tiger, or whatever alias suited his multifaceted existence. The tailored suit, a masterpiece of deception, could not mask the predatory grace of the man. His eyes, obsidian chips in a skull of sculpted bone, fixed on Silva with a chilling intensity. Even from this distance, Silva felt the weight of his gaze, a physical pressure that stole the air from his lungs. With a fluid motion that belied the lethal force coiled within, the tiger discarded his rifle, a mere formality. Close combat was his truest language. The expensive watch on his wrist, a symbol of his public life, glinted coldly in the starlight. No more games, Fox. The tiger's voice, low and dangerously smooth, cut through the wind's howl. It carried the weight of Mumbai's slums and the chilling precision of 1,000 silent deaths. Let's see what you're really made of. Silva, his own eyes narrowed, met the challenge. He felt a tremor of something akin to respect, a fleeting acknowledgement of the terrifying intellect and brutal efficiency that resided in the man before him. A man who could be a pillar of Mumbai society one moment, a ghost in the shadows the next. A man whose past was as shrouded in mystery as the night itself. "You first," Silvah replied, the words a challenge wrapped in icy steel. The air crackled with anticipation, a palpable tension thick enough to taste. The game had begun. The fight was a maelstrom of bone-jarring impacts and guttural snarls, a ballet of death played out under a bruised sea-rimson sky. The tiger, Arjun Raikar to the oblivious world, moved like a phantom, his strikes precise surgical incisions aimed at Silvah's vulnerabilities. The taste of blood, Silvah's perhaps, tinged the air, metallic and sharp. He felt the sickening thunk of bone against fist, as a calculated jab sent Silvah reeling. The man's pained gasp, a ragged counterpoint to the rhythmic thwack of the tiger's footfalls on the slick concrete. Each movement was a testament to years spent honing his lethal grace, a symphony of controlled violence. Silvah, however, was no mere pawn. He countered with a raw, untamed fury, each block a desperate parry against the tiger's relentless assault. The air crackled with the tension of their clash, the scent of sweat and fear thick in the suffocating humidity, when the tiger unleashed a devastating roundhouse kick, a blur of motion that ripped through the air with a whistling sound. Silvah met it with a desperate sidestep, his elbow a piston slamming into the tiger's ribs. The impact echoed, a sickening crunch that sent a jolt of pain through Arjun's body, but only momentarily. He grunted, a low, animalistic sound, his dark eyes blazing with a predatory gleam. "Not bad, dog," he hissed, his voice a low, controlled rumble that carried the weight of 1,000 silent killings. "But predictability is your death sentence." A cruel smirk stretched across Arjun's lips as he felt the familiar thrill of the hunt. Silvah, driven by blind rage, scrambled for anything, his hands closing on a jagged piece of rebar torn from a shattered railing. The cold steel felt strangely comforting in his grasp. The clash of steel on muscle, the metallic shriek of tortured metal meeting flesh. These were the sounds of a symphony of brutal elegance, a composition orchestrated by a master assassin disguised as a billionaire philanthropist. The fight was a testament to Arjun's double life. The carefully constructed facade of a respected industrialist shattered, revealing the cold, calculated heart of a killer. The taste of blood, the thrill of the hunt, these were his rewards, his intoxicating drug. He wouldn't have it any other way. The tiger, Arjun Raikar to the oblivious world, a name as polished as his bespoke suits, moved with the lethal grace of a phantom. His slender frame, a deceptive facade, coiled with lethal tension as Silvah's blade flashed. Each parry was a whisper of steel, a calculated negation of Silvah's brutal strength. The air crackled with the anticipation of death, the scent of ozone and sweat thick in the confined space. He countered with a flurry of blows, bone-jarring impacts that sent reverberations up Silvah's arms, the taste of blood already blooming on his tongue. The platform groaned under the weight of their conflict. A brutal dance played out under the cold, uncaring gaze of the ancient stones. Then came the sickening thwack of Silvah's body against the unforgiving granite. The tiger's kick, precise and brutal, landed with the force of a sledgehammer, cracking ribs like brittle twigs. Silvah's gasp was a choked animal sound, a desperate prayer lost in the cacophony of the fight. But the beast fought back, a desperate uppercut catching the tiger off guard, sending him reeling. The tiger's dark eyes, usually cold and calculating, burned with a primal fury as he stumbled. The detonator on his wrist, a cold metal band against his skin, pulsed with malevolent energy. He pressed the button, a final chilling act. A blinding flash tore through the darkness, a horrifying cascade of light that mirrored the explosion of adrenaline through his veins. The distant screams were swallowed by the roar of the approaching inferno, the gateway's hidden explosives detonating with a seismic boom that shook the very foundations of the city. The acrid stench of cordite and burning flesh filled the air, a bitter perfume to the carnage he wrought. His voice, a low growl laced with the arrogance of absolute power, cut through the chaos. Even if you kill me, Fox, Silvah, to those who know his true identity, the city burns. You're already too late. The game, Fox, is over. He spoke in Hindi, the words harsh, spitting with contempt. Silvah, his face streaked with blood and grime, his own breath ragged, felt a cold dread seep into his bones. The tiger's words, poisoned barbs aimed straight at his heart, were only partly about the city. This was personal. It was the chilling realization that even in victory, the tiger's victory, defeat would taste as bitter as ash. We'll see about that, Silvah snarled. The words a barely audible challenge, his gaze burning into the man who was both his deadly adversary and perhaps a long-lost brother. The weight of that revelation, heavy as the crumbling stones around them, pressed down on him, threatening to crush him under its impossible truth. The game, indeed, was far from over. Anaya's sacrifice, the detonator system. The air hung thick with the metallic tang of ozone and the sweat of Anaya Sharma's brow. Her reflection in the polished chrome of a control panel showed a woman on the brink, her usually sharp features drawn, her dark eyes shadowed with exhaustion and a deeper, more unsettling fear. Her breath hitched in ragged gasps, the rhythmic thump-thump-thump of her heart, a frantic drum against her ribs. The detonator system, a nightmarish labyrinth of wires and flashing lights, mocked her with its complexity. Zara's voice, a lifeline through the comms, was a mere whisper against the roaring chaos within her. Anaya, the override lock, Zara urged. Blue wire, now! Anaya's fingers trembled as she traced the blue wire. It led to a secondary system, a failsafe she'd installed herself. Disabling it meant relinquishing control, a gamble that could cost countless lives, including Silvah's. The thought twisted a fresh knife in her gut. Her own moral code, a rigid structure built on years of rigorous training and unwavering dedication, screamed against this course of action. Yet, the primary detonator was beyond repair. Manual override was her only hope, but it was a terrifying shortcut, something she'd always vowed never to use. This wasn't merely a sacrifice of her life, it was a betrayal of her principles. The weight of that realization pressed down on her, heavier than the crushing responsibility of the situation. She'd built her reputation on precision, on control. This felt like reckless abandonment, a desperate act born from fear and exhaustion. She glanced at her reflection again. The alpha female facade was crumbling, replaced by raw vulnerability, the image haunting and unsettling even to herself. "I'll do it manually," she responded to Zara, her voice a strained whisper. The words themselves felt like a confession, a betrayal of her own carefully constructed persona. Her heart ached with the knowledge that she was choosing a course of action she would likely regret for the rest of her life. Silvah's voice, sharp with desperation, pierced through the comms. "Anaya, don't! Please, there has to be another way." His words were a lifeline. Yet she knew clinging to them was a form of self-deception. She had already made her choice. The reality settled coldly. She was abandoning her promise to herself, to her beliefs. She smiled faintly, a ghost of the playful teasing he knew so well, now laced with a Karjak finality. "You told me to never let the shadows cloud my light," she said, her voice barely a breath. "But sometimes, Silvah," she added, a silent sob caught in her throat. "The light is too dim, and the shadows too tempting. Goodbye, Silvah." The words hung in the air, a heavy condemnation of her own actions. The detonator clicked, a final unforgiving seal on her fate and a resounding admission of her failure. She closed her eyes, not to the darkness, but to the bitter taste of a decision she knew she could never truly atone for. The earth convulsed. Anaya's sacrifice wasn't a controlled detonation. It was a seismic scream of defiance. The gateway didn't merely shudder, it buckled, a titan groaning under a blow that ripped through its steel bones. A blinding, incandescent sun bloomed, searing the night with the furious heartbeat of 1,000 suns. The air, thick with the stench of ozone and burning metal, vibrated with a force that slammed Silvah against the cold, unforgiving concrete. The shockwave, a physical manifestation of Anaya's final act, hammered him, stealing his breath, leaving him deafened and reeling. Through the maelstrom of fire and debris, he saw it, a fleeting, ethereal silhouette consumed by the infernal light, a final agonizing gasp lost in the roar of the explosion. The image seared itself onto his soul, a brand of unimaginable loss. No! The word tore from his throat, raw, choked with the agony of betrayal and despair. The acrid smoke, a suffocating shroud, slowly yielded to the dawn. Silvah, his body bruised, his spirit broken, crawled to the precipice, the ravaged landscape below a testament to Anaya's sacrifice. The silence that followed was worse than the explosion, a suffocating vacuum filled only with the rasping of his own shattered breath and the ghost of Anaya's scream. His fists clenched, bone-white knuckles mirroring the stark, desolate scene. Rage, a white-hot inferno, warred with grief, a leaden weight crushing his chest. The tiger, a phantom of darkness, slipped away into the crumbling remains, his elegant movements a stark contrast to the devastation he'd helped orchestrate. But Silvah didn't move. He wouldn't chase the shadow of a man who'd played a part in this tragedy. He stood, a granite statue, the first pale fingers of dawn painting the horizon, a fragile promise of a new day, a day of reckoning. The words, a barely audible whisper, carried on the wind. "This isn't over, Arjun Raikar," he breathed. The name, a poisonous dart, piercing the quiet resolve. Not by a long shot. Arjun Raikar, the tiger. The name tasted like ash on Silvah's tongue. A Mumbai industrialist, a philanthropist, lauded for his brilliance. A man whose tailored suits concealed the cold precision of a master assassin. He was a chameleon, flitting effortlessly between the opulent balls of high society and the grimy back alleys where lives were extinguished with surgical efficiency. At 5'10", his slender frame belied a strength born from years of brutal training. His dark eyes, pools of obsidian, held the chilling wisdom of a man who had stared into the abyss and emerged unscathed. His sharp, angular features, usually softened by a carefully cultivated charisma, were now sharpened by the knowledge of a shared blood, a bond severed by fate and obscured by years of calculated deceit. The contrast between his public persona and the brutal reality of his clandestine life was his greatest weapon, a mask that shielded him from the truth he hadn't yet allowed himself to face. The truth about Anaya, his sister, a truth that now hung, heavy and suffocating, in the air, thick with the lingering scent of smoke and the bitter taste of betrayal. The game, Arjun knew, had just become far more complicated. The aftermath. The gateway of India, a granite colossus, loomed defiantly against the bruised dawn. The sky, streaked with blee-eating orange, bore the mocking hues of a sunrise that illuminated the scars of last night's carnage. The air hung heavy, laced with the metallic tang of blood and the acrid sting of smoke, clawing relentlessly at my throat. Each breath came ragged, tasting of ash and unrelenting fear. Smoke didn't drift lazily. It surged upward like a furious, writhing beast, its greasy tendrils twisting malevolently through the morning haze. The sirens weren't merely wailing. They screamed, a banshee chorus echoing the raw, unfiltered agony of the city. My boots crunched against something unnervingly soft beneath them, a discarded garland, perhaps, or something far worse. Once vibrant, festive colors were now smeared and torn, their brilliance reduced to grotesque obscenities scattered across the ravaged ground. Mud-caked, tattered banners, remnants of a celebration cruelly stolen by the night, flapped weakly, like wounded birds clinging to life. Shattered fragments of joy lay strewn amidst the wreckage. Splintered wood, crushed marigolds, trampled silk, all entwined with the unforgiving reality of broken glass, abandoned slippers, and something darker, something unspeakable. The rubble wasn't just debris. It was a graveyard of dreams, a silent witness to laughter, silenced by screams. In Mihwai's mind's eye, I saw them. The fleeing crowds, their faces contorted in terror, their eyes wide with the horror only a living nightmare could carve into their souls. And yet, amidst the chaos, a fragile sliver of hope twisted defiantly, an ember of resistance against the suffocating weight of loss. This wasn't simply a battlefield. It was a massacre, a desecration of everything sacred and beautiful. This was my city, battered and grieving, its wounds so deep they defied even the most skilled healer. And yet it stood, scarred but unbroken, whispering its resilience through the agony. Silvah Foxx trudged through the wreckage, his sharp suit now torn and dust-streaked. His once immaculate demeanor weighed down by exhaustion that went beyond physical fatigue. The grime on his face, streaks of dirt, dried blood, and the lingering scent of cordite mirrored the grime clinging to his soul. His steps faltered, not just from weariness, but from a sickening weight in his chest. He'd seen too much, done too much. He scanned the scene, the flickering torchlight revealing a landscape of devastation, searching for Anya. And then he saw her, but she wasn't alone. Anya, his informant, the woman who'd risked everything to help him expose the sprawling criminal network, lay wounded, a cruel gash across her thigh, cradled in the arms of Konstantin Volkov, the very man Silva had sworn to bring down. Volkov, his face a mask of chilling composure, held a silenced pistol trained on Anya's head. A cold dread, sharper than any blade, pierced Silva. He'd promised Anya, that he'd never compromise his code. No unnecessary harm, no collateral damage. But the sight of Anya, vulnerable and bleeding, forced a brutal choice upon him. Let her die, or his internal monologue raged. The agency would understand. Volkov is too dangerous to let live. Collateral damage. It's unfortunate, but necessary. The justification felt hollow, a flimsy shield against the icy terror gripping his heart. He'd become the very thing he despised. A man willing to sacrifice one life to save another. A man who justified brutality in the name of a greater good. He'd spent years meticulously cultivating his image, the untouchable agent, the man who always had a plan. Now facing Volkov's cold, calculating gaze, he felt the carefully constructed facade crumble. His sharp wit, his tactical brilliance, all seemed to desert him. He had no plan, only the gnawing certainty of his impending failure. The agency would never understand this, not truly. They'd celebrate his success in neutralizing Volkov, but they'd never comprehend the cost, the price of a soul. He knew with chilling clarity that the blood staining his hands would forever be a mark of this compromise, a bitter testament to the man he was becoming, and the one he would forever regret being. He could feel the cold, hollow weight of his choice settling into his bones, a chilling echo of the night's carnage. Anaya's final rest. Dawn bled a cruel crimson stain across the Mumbai sky, painting Anaya Sharma's lifeless form at the fort of the Gateway of India in a macabre light. Her athletic body, usually a taut symphony of controlled power, lay still, the faintest blush of sunrise mocking the brutal end. 5'7" of sculpted muscle and sharp angles. Her usually sleek black hair fanned out around her head like a fallen raven's wing, a stark contrast to the elegant chaos of the scene. The dirt smeared across her cheekbones, a grim parody of war paint, did nothing to diminish the sharp beauty of her angular features. A tiny cut marred her forehead, a punctuation mark to the finality of it all. Even in death, her deep brown eyes, usually so captivating, held a strange, unsettling peace, as if she'd simply closed the book on a life too short, too vibrant. Silvah moved towards her, his breath catching in his throat, a choked sob trapped behind his ribs. Each step was agony, the weight of the world pressing down on him, crushing him. He knelt, the cold stone a cruel mirror to the icy dread that gripped his heart. He could smell the sharp tang of blood mingling with the salty sea air, a brutal olfactory assault. The texture of the rough stone beneath his knees was a painful counterpoint to the smoothness of her skin, still warm despite the encroaching chill. He reached for her, his fingers brushing against the rough fabric of her tactical vest, the faint scent of gunpowder and her perfume, a ghost of her lingering presence, a torment. His hand closed around her badge, the cool metal a jarring contrast to the fiery inferno of his grief. It vibrated faintly in his grasp, a phantom heartbeat, a physical manifestation of her indomitable spirit. He ripped it from its moorings, the metal biting into his skin, a searing reminder of her bravery. His knuckles bleached white as he crushed the medallion in his fist, the cold metal a mockery of the warmth that had vanished, the silent scream of his loss echoing in the pre-dawn stillness. He bowed his head, the image of her, strong, defiant, breathtakingly alive, seared into his memory, a searing brand he would carry to his grave. The vibrant spark of her personality, her sharp wit, her teasing flirtation, all reduced to this heartbreaking stillness. The woman who had defied death so many times now lay defeated, her alpha female spirit extinguished, leaving behind only the chilling emptiness of loss. "You deserved so much better," he rasped, the words a choked whisper lost in the reeking air of burnt metal and blood. The taste of ash coated his tongue, a bitter echo of the devastation. He paused, a strangled sob hitching in his throat, the muscles clenching painfully. "But you saved them all, Anaya. All of them." For an eternity, it felt like, Silvah remained kneeling, the screams of the wounded a distant, muffled roar. The acrid stench of smoke burned his nostrils, a physical manifestation of the searing grief that consumed him. The weight of her sacrifice pressed down, not just a shroud, but a physical crushing weight upon his chest, each labored breath a testament to his despair. The slick, cold dampness of the concrete seeped into his trousers, mirroring the icy chill that had settled deep in his bones. A paramedic approached, their face a blur through his tear-filled vision. But Silvah's hand shot out, a desperate, silencing gesture. "She's gone," he croaked, the words raspy and broken, his gaze fixed on the crimson stain blooming on the cracked pavement. Her blood, a brutal, unforgiving testament to her courage. He felt the phantom pressure of her hand in his, a searing reminder of the warmth he'd lost. The paramedic, a woman whose eyes held a weary understanding, born of countless tragedies, simply nodded, her own grief palpable in the silent retreat. Silvah was left alone, adrift in the wreckage, the cacophony of his inner turmoil drowning out the fading sirens. The city's devastation paled in comparison to the desolate wasteland his heart had become. The gateway of India loomed, a granite behemoth against the bruised twilight sky. Dust motes, kicked up by the receding chaos, danced in the fading light. Silvah's sobs were a distant, muffled ache. But I moved, the tiger. No one saw him slip through the thinning throng. His dark tactical gear, almost liquid in its seamlessness, absorbed the shadows. Each footfall was a whisper on the broken pavement, his posture a coiled spring of lethal grace. The carnage, his carnage, didn't ruffle him. A glimpse of his face, partially hidden by a dark silk scarf, revealed only the steely glint of eyes that burned with cold satisfaction. He paused on the edge of the pandemonium and surveyed the scene. His gaze, sharp as a hawk's, lingered on the gateway, defiant and still amidst the wreckage. A ghost of a smile, a predatory curve, played on his lips before the scarf climbed higher, shrouding him further. With the practiced efficiency of a surgeon, he discarded his gloves into an overflowing metal bin, each movement precise, calculated. A quick, silent tug, and his tactical jacket fell away, revealing a simple, charcoal gray shirt beneath. He moved with the purposeful fluidity of a phantom, shedding his persona like unwanted skin, merging with the worried faces and hurried footsteps of the gathering crowd. He melted into the narrow alley's shadows, his silhouette dissolving against the crumbling brickwork. The camera held, lingering on a barely visible mark etched into the wall. A tiger's paw, claw marks sharp as a knife, a silent promise etched in stone. The air hung heavy with the scent of gunpowder and fear, a miasma clinging to the humid Mumbai night. From the tailored suits he wore as Arjun Raikar, one of Mumbai's most influential industrialists, to the lethal efficiency of his alter ego, the tiger, the transformation was as seamless as the shift from light to shadow. His movements, a paradox of power contained within an elegantly slender frame, 5'10", spoke of years spent honing his skills, transforming the chaotic energy of Mumbai's slums into a lethal grace. His age, somewhere in his early to mid-30s, belied the chilling calm that emanated from him. He was an enigma, a master assassin, a strategic genius, a billionaire industrialist, all existing simultaneously. The weight of his multiple identities hung heavy, yet they never seemed to clash. He was a master of disguise, a chameleon blending into any environment. His sharp features and piercing dark eyes held the secrets of a life lived on the edge, each glance a silent threat, a promise of impending doom. The tiger's origin story remained a haunting mystery, even to himself, a ghost born from the teeming chaos of the Mumbai slums. His only constant, a relentless drive for success, for control, for power. Silvah's resolve. The camera returned to Silvah, who now stood over Anaya's body, her badge a cold weight in his hand. His grief, though carefully masked, warred with a bitter resentment that gnawed at him. It wasn't just grief. It was the crushing weight of his failure. He'd promised to protect her, and he'd failed. The thought echoed in his mind, a relentless drumbeat against the fragile composure he maintained. The turning point, Silvah brushed a strand of hair from Anaya's face, the gesture clumsy despite his intent. His movements were jerky, betraying the turmoil within. He stood slowly, his body weary, his gaze hardening, not with resolve, but with a dangerous flicker of something else, a cold, calculating anger. Holding her badge aloft, he didn't see a silent vow, but a symbol of his own inadequacy. The whispers of doubt, of the compromises he'd already made to get this far, clawed at him. "You gave everything, Anaya," he whispered, the words sounding hollow even to his own ears. The steady voice was a mask, cracking under the pressure of his inner conflict. The "I'll make sure it wasn't for nothing" felt like a lie, a desperate plea to himself more than a promise. His true vow, the one he hadn't uttered, was to avenge her, even if it meant sullying the very principles Anaya had lived and died for. A symbolic gesture, a Faustian bargain. With a tremor in his hand, Silvah placed the badge into his pocket. The act wasn't a simple promise. It felt like a betrayal. He knew the path ahead, a path of vengeance, a path that demanded compromises he instinctively recoiled from, but knew he might not be strong enough to resist. The memory of Anaya's unwavering integrity was a painful, accusing presence. He had to choose, uphold the ideals she represented, or descend into the darkness to exact justice. The weight in his pocket wasn't just Anaya's badge. It was the burden of a choice that would irrevocably alter his soul. The gateway to hell, it seemed, loomed, a skeletal grin against the bruised dawn. Charred stone, reeking of burnt flesh and cordite, mocked the fragile victory. It stood defiant, a monument not to resilience, but to the sheer bloody-minded stubbornness of things that refuse to die. The symbolism, a festering wound refusing to heal. Silvah tasted blood, his own metallic and acrid on his tongue, the grit of pulverized concrete clinging to his teeth. Zara Khan's voice, a frantic whisper swallowed by static, clawed its way into his ear. "Silvah, damn it, answer me, status." He didn't answer immediately. He needed to savor the moment, the adrenaline-laced silence before the next wave crashed over him. Then a growl, barely audible, a promise etched in the gravelly timbre of his voice. Alive and the hunt, it continues. The sun, a malevolent eye bleeding crimson through the smoke-choked sky, cast long, accusing shadows. His face, a canvas of grime and wounds, mirrored the devastation around him. Each ragged breath rasped through his shredded tactical vest, a stark counterpoint to the fragile beauty of the rising sun, painting the ravaged city in hues of blood orange and ash gray. He was a ghost, forged in the fires of this apocalypse, his heart a relentless engine of vengeance. The camera pulled back, revealing the full, horrifying panorama. The gateway, a titan of stone amidst the ruins, a tombstone marking the beginning of a long and brutal war. The city stirred, its awakening a symphony of groans and whispers, a testament to the enduring spirit and the brutal cost of its survival. Epilogue, Shadows of Life. The camera drifts, a slow pan across a subterranean chamber, the air thick with the metallic tang of blood and antiseptic. Faint emerald and sapphire glows pulse from medical monitors, their rhythmic beep, beep, beep. The only sound louder than the low hum of life support. White walls, stark and unforgiving, seem to press in. A tangle of tubes and wires, a macabre road map, sprawls across the polished floor, converging on a hospital bed. Anaya Sharma lies still, her face a porcelain mask under the harsh light, but for a subtle rise and fall of her chest. Bruises, a brutal map of the explosion, bloom across her arms and face. A stark white bandage binds her shoulder, rigid and tense. The camera pulls back, revealing the hallway beyond. Silence hangs heavy, broken only by the hushed whispers of a young doctor addressing a nurse, their voices barely audible above the low thrum of the machines within. Agent Zara Khan, a silhouette of exhaustion and grim determination in her tactical gear, leans against the wall, the fluorescent light catching the sheen of sweat on her brow. Her posture is a rigid line against the cold tile. The camera lingers on Anaya. Her shoulder-length black hair, usually neat and precise, is splayed across the pillow, framing a face both striking and pale. Even in unconsciousness, a fierce beauty persists. The sharp angles of her cheekbones, softened only by the ethereal pallor of her skin. Her deep brown eyes, normally intense and captivating, are closed, yet somehow still hint at the unwavering resolve that defines her. The faintest hint of a cut mars her lip, a tiny crimson thread against the pale canvas of her face. This is Anaya Sharma, the Alpha, vulnerable, yet undeniably powerful, even in her stillness. "Lucky," the doctor rasped, his breath misting the observation window, the sterile scent of antiseptic stinging his nostrils. Another minute, and the flatline would have been permanent. Even now. His voice, a gravelly whisper, hung in the air, thick with the weight of his unspoken doubt. A chilling counterpoint to the rhythmic beep of the heart monitor. The sweat beaded on his forehead, reflecting the harsh glare of the operating room lights. The awakening inside, the camera locked onto Anaya's face, the stark white light amplifying the pallor of her skin, the subtle tremor of her jaw. The air hung heavy with the metallic tang of blood and the faint, sickly sweet odor of fear. Her eyelids fluttered, a fragile butterfly struggling to break free from its chrysalis. The shallow, ragged breaths hitched in her chest, a rasping bellows against the silence. Then a tremor, a twitch, a desperate, agonizing claw of her fingers. Finally, her eyes snapped open, twin pools of pain reflecting the merciless glare. Her vision swam, the white a blinding vortex, but slowly, with a terrifying deliberation. Her gaze found its focus, sharp and piercing. A single word, a ragged whisper that scraped against the sterile silence, escaping her cracked, bloodless lips. Silvah, the name itself, a dark brand, imbued with a history of secrets and a terrifying, unspoken power. The rush to her side, a deafening shriek, a metallic clang. The monitors erupted in a furious, jagged spike, bathing the room in the sickly green glow of impending doom. The door wasn't merely opened, it exploded inward, splintering wood showering the floor as two figures, Dr. Eris Thorne, his face etched with grim determination, and Dr. Lena Reyes, her eyes blazing with adrenaline-fueled focus, surged forward, followed by Nurse Klein, a whirlwind of controlled chaos. "Conscious!" Thorne roared, his voice a raw, urgent bellow that sliced through the tense silence. Reyes, her hands a blur of motion, wrestled with the IV line, the hiss of escaping fluid, a counterpoint to the ragged gasps escaping Anaya's lips. Klein's touch, though gentle, was icy against Anaya's fevered skin, a stark contrast to the lingering heat of the explosion that still clung to her like a phantom embrace. The acrid stench of burnt metal and ozone filled Anaya's nostrils, a nauseating reminder of the inferno she'd narrowly escaped. Her lips, cracked and bleeding, barely moved. A whisper, lost in the cacophony. Silvah, hope, fragile as a butterfly's wing, fluttered in the suffocating air. Thorne, a man whose empathy was usually masked by a steely professionalism, leaned closer, the cold steel of his stethoscope, a stark contrast to the warmth of his breath, against Anaya's skin as he listened to the frantic rhythm of her heart. His voice, though still strained, held a tremor of relief, a raw vulnerability that betrayed years of battling death's icy grip. "She's stabilizing," he announced, the words a prayer whispered on the wind. But in his eyes, a flicker of doubt still lingered. The battle was far from won. The camera burrows into Anaya's face, a suffocating close-up. Her eyelids, leaden and bruised, flutter once, twice, then surrender. The faint scent of ozone and burnt sugar, a phantom perfume clinging to her, fills the air as her head lolls, a broken doll's. A tremor, barely perceptible, runs through her jaw. The rasp of her breath, shallow and ragged, is a counterpoint to the frantic hammering of the unseen heart beneath her skin. Her lips part, a crimson fissure in the pallor of her face, and the name escapes, a whispered curse, a dying ember. Silvah. The sound itself carries the weight of a broken vow, a lifetime of secrets and a chilling premonition of what waits for her in the darkness she's already falling into. Darkness, a suffocating absolute black that presses in from all sides. The only sound, a frantic drum against the ribs. Thump, 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 the heart monitor's frantic tattoo, a desperate plea against the encroaching void. The metallic tang of antiseptic stings the nostrils, a bitter counterpoint to the faint, cloying sweetness of blood. Anaya's blood, perhaps. The rhythmic beep, thump, beep, thump, each pulse a hammer blow against the silence. Then a whisper, barely audible above the hum of the life support machines. A rasping breath from the edge of death. Silvah, Silvah. A name that claws at the edges of understanding. a promise of something both terrifying and alluring. The blackness holds, a suffocating shroud, then a flicker, a primal glow in the inky depths, the faintest suggestion of amber fire. It grows, resolving into the silhouette of a tiger's paw, claws extended, dripping not with blood, but with the cold, hard gleam of moonlight. The raw power, the untamed ferocity, vibrates from the screen, a palpable threat. Below the paw, words materialize, searing themselves onto the retina. The hunt is far from over. The words themselves hum with a low, menacing thrum, a promise of violence, of retribution, of a hunt that transcends the mortal coil.